Things I want to tell you.
What's going on?
Come lie down with me. I just want to be with you right now.
Are you leaving me?
We're all leaving. Can you feel me with you right now?
All right, can you hear me? All righty. I'd like to welcome you out to our meeting this evening. If we can have a roll call, Jen?
President Carnation,
Here?
Trustee Ahmad. Here. Trustee Heights,
Here.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Lopez. Here. And Student Board Member Jackson Caligari.
Here.
All right, now we're going to go to 2-2, the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. Thank you. We'd like to report out of closed session. We have a couple. Student case 112922, in consideration of student expulsion case 112922. Is there a motion for a finding of fact? And I made the motion. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carries 5-0. And then let's see. In consideration of student expulsion case 112922, is there a motion to uphold the principal's recommendation for expulsion?
I'll so move.
All right, can I have a second?
I'll second.
All righty, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty, that carries 5-0 as well. And I'll give that to Jen. Now, then on a happy note, in consideration of student readmission, case 091421, the board's decision to readmit the student, may I have a motion?
Yep, I'll make the motion to readmit.
All righty, can I have a second?
Second motion here.
All righty, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, votes 5-0. And so that student is readmitted. All right, very
Chairman, I
good.
want to thank and acknowledge you and the team as well as the counselors. It is nice when we have an expelled student who has met their rehab plan and is coming back to join our school community. As we were talking in closed session, that does not happen all the time, and this is good news. So thank you very much.
All righty, very good. Jeremy, is there anything else we need to report out? All righty. Going to 3.1, adjustments to the agenda. Are there any? All righty. Public comment. Is there any public comment on, oh, sorry. Oh, we have an adjustment. While you're looking that up, just so everybody knows, I'm wearing a mask because I got a little bit of a sniffle the other day, and this is the season where we like to pass out gifts, and this is not the gift that anybody wants. So I'm just keeping it to myself.
So we have an adjustment. I'm gonna have Austin walk us through. It's a contract for some asphalt paving that we got in late.
Got it.
Yeah, so we had an employee fall in an area this week and get injured. The area had, there's standards for how much the crack can be up or down in asphalt and for concrete. So we had a contract come out and give us a quote, but it was after the 72 hours of the board agenda. So we're going to apply that to our contract batch as an adjustment, but that way we can get the contractors out and do the concrete work and asphalt while the kids are gone for December for Christmas. So.
How large is the scope of work, Austin?
Do you have this number?
Just
on there?
roughly?
It's roughly 50,000.
Thank you.
So it's above what Jeremy could just
It's
approve.
55. What?
It's above what yeah, but there are also different standards when you're talking construction or deferred maintenance, but it's a contract. All contracts come before the board.
Right.
And so that's why it's coming before you.
Who is the contractor? So that way, if we have to recuse ourselves,
What's the contractor name?
We think it's in Jeremy's.
just in case I
You
know.
think
him.
it's in my office?
Yeah, I think I took it out. when I-
It's going to come before us later.
You know what? What we're gonna do, we're gonna go get that paper because we shouldn't do this without it. So we have the document, we have the contract, we'll grab it, we'll add it to the end if you'll allow it. Can we make this the last item on the agenda?
Sure.
Yes?
What-
Because you
what are
have to,
what
you
are
have
we
to
gonna
vote
call
to
this?
approve to accept.
Right. This would be 6.6
Yes, if that's the last item, yeah.
asphalt. Okay, and then we'll get the paperwork in between time. Cool. That sounds good. All right, is there any public comment, 3.2, is there any public comment for any non-agendized item? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to 3.3, Student Board Member Jackson Calgary, your report.
I've got a bit of a hodgepodge today. I'll try and tie at least two of the three things together. One is very old, as you'll see from the date, but I wanted to talk about it. So I'll be right back. Clicker. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was Winter High School's Winter Wonderland that they threw December 2nd of this year. This was thrown by the leadership program at Winter High School, but what I think is nice about this program is that it really attracted a lot of younger kids who I'm sure are at Windsor schools, but it really showed them and their parents like, hey, keep sticking with Windsor schools. It kind of makes the high school look very attractive, I think. That's me dressed up as Santa. I don't know why they chose to have me do that, but I did. So I just thought it was something worth mentioning. I don't know if any of you had the chance to go. The high school looked very, very nice, to the point where I'm kind of scared to ask Ms. Whiteley how much it costs, but maybe I'll ask for next year. But overall, really good program, and it's something that I'm always happy to see us reaching out past just kids in the high school range. This is the very, very old thing that I've wanted to talk about for a little while, and that is Windsor High School went to a leadership workshop with a bunch of other high schools around Sonoma County. And I've said this before, but we have 97 students in leadership at the high school. We have 4 leadership classes. We weren't able to send all of our kids. We sent about 2/3. We sent about 60 to the conference. So I guess that's closer to 3/5 to the conference, and we had definitely double any other school there, maybe triple, because most schools have one leadership class at the most. And we didn't send all of our kids, and we still overtook the gym. It got to the point where we were all cheering and trying to be very, very loud because the loudest school was therefore the best. And it got to the point where Cardinal Newman and Carrillo and Rancho Cotati were all trying to like team up and be louder than us, and they still weren't. Which is something that I'm going to hold very dear. And it's something that I'm always trying to demonstrate, that the leadership program is this year really, really strong. And I believe about half of the students are freshmen. And not all of the freshmen stick with it through their 4 years. But last year's freshman orientation, there was a big focus on, can we get these students to join leadership? And we really, really did. And keeping that up will, some of them will fall out of the program over time, but it'll end with some really, really strong and really, really big classes that make us look really, really good compared to the rest of Sonoma County. And something they talked about at the leadership workshop, they had this, inspirational speaker, I suppose, who's worked in education for a long time and came in and showed a lot of examples from around the U.S. of how leadership programs operated. A bunch of interesting ideas, and a lot of them revolved around how do we recognize students and teachers. And most of those were like, oh, we'll hang pictures on the wall of like students of the month and teachers of the month, and we'll put up photos of all the kids who are going to school and where they're going. And I realized that we don't really have like hallways at our schools, so I'm trying to figure out how we can recognize students and teachers and outside of, because we talk about it a lot at the school board meetings, but I don't think there's a ton of students watching them, because I pulled up the YouTube link earlier because I had to send it out to some people, and I think I was the only one watching, which is fine, but if we want to recognize students and we want them to other students to see that and grow from that, we want to do it in a way that they're going to see it a little bit more. But I am going to recognize somebody here today because we have a German exchange student whose name is Stefan Nuber, who I've become pretty good friends with. And he developed this app, actually, that is a math training program for elementary school kids. I've downloaded it on my phone. It makes me feel very good about my math skills because I absolutely rock the addition section. But it's really, really interesting, actually. And it's really, really good. He's won 3 app development competitions. He's won the Seton Hall Pirates Pitch competition, the Big Idea competition, and the Congressional App Challenge for the 5th District of California. But he'll go to Washington in April and present this. And he hasn't not won a competition yet. These are all entrepreneurship competitions. And it just struck a chord with me because last week we were talking about our scores in math and how do we improve them. I'm not sure if this is the way to do that, but it does have sections for creating school classes. Teachers can assign homework through there. And it's just an example of students who are doing really good things, not necessarily directly through the school, but at our schools. And it's something that, I wanted to recognize. And I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackson. Any questions for anybody?
I just wanted to make a comment. So I was there briefly at the Winter Wonderland, and I just wanted to say what a wonderful job they did. Everybody was so friendly and welcoming, and I could see all of it looked to me like the younger kids were really having the best time. So really great job.
Great, thanks, Jackson. All righty, we're going to move on to Superintendent's Report 3.4. Jeremy, is there any?
So I don't have anything to report, but I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Trustee Heights for his 8 years of service to our school district as a board member. I think during those 8 years, you went through a lot. There was a lot of tough decisions that had to be made. And I personally admire you just for always being an individual, a great character, always willing to listen even if you disagreed, and just having just good moral compass, Eric. So just thank you for your time. I know it could be a thankless job, but you did it well. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy. All righty, let's move to our staff association reports. Come on up.
Good evening, everybody. Laura Gonzalez, President, Windsor District Educators Association. And I also want to thank Trustee Heights for his service for the last 8 years. And as Jackson spotlighted a student, I thought I'd like to spotlight a teacher this evening because we have, in one of the consent items, there's music and also the recent passage of Prop 28. And so as a new president, one of my jobs is to learn more about different areas that I don't teach, like music, SPED, special ed. And so I talked to the music teacher at my school, and I asked him, well, what do you do outside of school hours that pertain to the job that's not part of a stipend or anything? And he sent me quite a bit. So I do want to share this with you. So he has here items that are things that he has to do. Maintain band instrument inventory. There are currently over 250 band instruments. They have to be played, evaluated, adjusted, and repaired. He's learned to do many of the repairs himself, but he also takes them to Stan Roy Music Center down in Santa Rosa. He's already taken 12 trips down there this semester. And remember, that's 10.8 miles one way. And he also has to maintain instrument inventory. There's about 140 string instruments, violins, violas, cello, basses, and they have to be played, evaluated, adjusted, and repaired. Same thing. The strings should be changed once a year, but ours rarely are because that's just too much. And he takes trips to Loveland Violin Shop, which is also on 4th Street. He's never gotten mileage until this year for doing that. He has to find, raise money to maintain instruments, buy supplies and music, go on field trips, etc. He had been told by a former principal that they should start a music booster club, which he tried to do. And they were able to raise some money, but sadly, I'm not really sure how this happened. But the entire strings music library, the value exceeding $50,000 was thrown in the trash. I'm assuming there's an accident occurred somehow. I'm not privy to the exact details. And again, that was privately raised money. That was not money from the district. He does concerts, of course, that's part of his job stipend. He has a few concerts a year. He also takes the kids, go to Camp Kaz. This year he took 15 students. It's often been 25 to 30. He has to be there, and it's from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. on Friday, Saturday, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Friday and Saturday, and then 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Sunday. The Annalee Fall Festival, he takes groups there to perform. They perform after school on Friday or on a Saturday. This year he got lucky because both groups got to perform on Friday. He does the Sonoma County Honor Band. Our finest students play in this group. In January, they attend a rehearsal from 3 to 9 p.m. on Friday, a rehearsal from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday, and performance from 7 to 9 on Saturday night. That'll be in January. He does new student orientations. They have to play at the new student orientation for students coming into Windsor Middle School from Brooks. He does a Discovery Kingdom trip as a reward. Sometimes they perform music in the parks at the Music in the Parks Festival, and then they go to Discovery Kingdom, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Other auxiliary performances that they have done, like at the tree lighting ceremony here in Windsor. He has to do student recruiting and retention, which is an endless task. Keyboard lab, they have to they replaced the Yamaha Music Education Lab in about 1995. He did all the research, worked with vendors to purchase the new lab. He wrote several grants for it. And when they have to be fixed, he's in charge of that too. He has to get them repaired. And unfortunately, he says it's rather difficult to go through the DO, so he puts it on his credit card. And I just wanted to give a shout out to this teacher and to let you know, to show you, so many of us do so much after school hours, but I wanted to specifically spotlight our music teacher because he's doing a lot. And again, this is outside of school hours, and he does it for love of the students and for love of music and to make sure that they have a music program. So thank you, Mr. Mitchell, and all the other music teachers. Thanks.
Thanks, Laura. Do we have any other staff reports? Alrighty, I'm not seeing any. We're going to move to Board of Trustees reports. Actually, I know a couple of them. Actually, I'd like to just go really quick first. 4 years ago, when I ran for the school board, one of the main reasons I was afraid not to was because sometimes I can be an expressive person, and sometimes as expressive people go, certain things will fly out of their mouth that they wish they could take back. And so when I was talking to one of my friends, Heather Cullen, she said that I would do great if I didn't use some of my richisms. And so I thought a get out of jail free way would be I made a little jar that said, I swear, if I swear, I'll donate $50 to Heather's music program. So I've been a good boy, and I don't want to hurt the kids by not getting the money that they otherwise would get. And so in public, I'm just making sure, Bill. So in public, from this microphone, I haven't said any richisms, but I don't want to hurt the kids. So I'm going to, once again, donate $200 to Heather's music program for the kids because I don't want them to suffer because I found maturity and restraint. So anyhow, once again, I will donate $200. We'll give that to Jen, and she can make sure Heather gets it. So that was, we can pass that on down there. So that's my annual giving in the month of December. That was my report. Is there, Bill, anybody else have something? I know Eric wanted to talk a little bit.
Yeah, I just would like to have a few seconds here to give my appreciation to the staff I've worked with for the last 8 years. It's been a up and down road. We've had lots of things going on in the district over those 8 years, lots of new staff, lots of changes, but I'm very proud of the people that I'm working with now, or have been working with now. I enjoy working with the board and the dais and the student representatives that have been here in the past. I will miss the work, but I'm also very busy otherwise, full-time teaching and athletic directors and all the other stuff that I work on. But I wish the Windsor District well, and I know that Paul will be coming in and represent education as I do, and so that's a good connection. I don't feel any ill will because of that, so it's hopefully a good transition of power. And I will be following. I may come in and do a public comment once in a while, so we'll see how things go. But I'm proud of the work we did together, and I am honored to have been voted in twice and spent 8 years serving the community in the district. And so I just wanted to thank all of you that are involved in the school for the time that you've shared with all of us, and wish you well for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I want to thank you, Eric, for all your service. 8 years is a long time to be on the board. And whatever, I just remember the first time I met you and we were talking about some different things. Someone asked how you wanted to serve. And your comment was that you would like to be very statesmanlike. And I'd like to say that in all my interactions with you, in public, in private, and whatever, you've been very statesmanlike in all of your presentation. And for that, I think we all appreciate that. And we appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well,
Well, that was just, I didn't
I have a
see
couple. I'm
anybody
going
jumping.
to end with Eric because I don't know when Eric's like getting up, if he gets up before we do the minutes in a second. A couple of things. Thank you, Laura, for that report. I have a student who is a music teacher in an elementary school district who is largely inspired by Steve Mitchell. So thank you for cataloging that. I wanted to recognize Esme Rangel. Esme Rangel was elected the CSEA president last night. Brad did not run again, and Sochi Pardo was also one of the officers, but kudos to your counterpart with CSEA, Esme, and we look forward to seeing her and working with her. Also wanted to recognize Jessica Borland. Tuesday, the Board of Supervisors reappointed her as one of the 11 countywide Child Care Planning Council members, which are doing huge work. So there she is in the front row. So thank you, Councilperson Borland, who I've known nearly as long as I've known Mr. Mitchell. Also, and thank you for that wonderful, I'd love to have that German exchange student come and join us to talk about his trip before he goes to Washington, before he goes home. You know, we had an expulsion and we had a readmission of high school students. We also had some successes in the fall that I just wanted to make sure we mentioned, because with only one meeting a month, we don't get across that. Our ladies volleyball team won the league and did very, very well, continued to be excellent. Our football team did the same thing. Our coach was honored as Coach of the Year, DJ Sexton, in his first year as the varsity coach. And we had a sophomore who was most valuable player in the entire league, which is the senior league in the whole county. So I won't necessarily embarrass Hayden Anderson by saying his name, but good things are happening out of the school. And I just wanted to share that. And my friend, you are, I love the word moral compass. I will certainly miss working with you. So good luck.
So I have a couple current events that I wanted to mention just because I think they will impact us over the next 4 years potentially, or into the future. Just a couple technological developments that happened in the last week that I think are big news. One is fusion power, which is, you know, how we're going to be powered 100 years from now, but maybe we're getting closer to that being a reality. I think they did an experiment in the US, in Northern California. I think it was in the Lawrence Livermore Lab, so close to here, where they were able to generate more power than they put in for the first time ever in human history. So that's a really big deal. And then second thing is artificial intelligence is doing something that in the short term will cause a headache because it will help students cheat, right? I mean, ultimately, you can generate an essay written at your level, your grade level, in a matter of seconds on whatever topic you want, or solve any problem you have. But I think it also it's probably going to revolutionize humanity one more time. And we're going to see a lot of big changes over the next few years because it exists and we can solve problems that have known solutions so much more quickly. So I think it will reinforce our philosophy of education, which is really about the whole student and not just the output. So wanted to mention those two things, but last but not least, Eric, you will be missed. I think we've had a great run as a group working together, the five of us, and change is inevitable, but it's always hard. And you have been a moral compass to the board, and you've been a really good example as a trustee, and we will miss you.
Also, it wasn't mentioned, but Stephanie hosted a small dinner party last night. We all got together and they gave me a plaque and some flowers and things like that. So I'm not just being thrown out. But I appreciate the thoughts and the comments, and it means a lot. So I'll keep in touch, that's for sure. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, everybody. We're going to move to 3.7, approval of minutes from November 17th. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
All righty. We have a motion from Malinelli. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All righty, second from Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All righty, so that would be 5-0 and 1. All righty, thank you very much. All right, we are now going to move on to section 4, the school board organization. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you so much. In touch.
All righty. So this is a little bit of a new section, not a new section, a little bit of a.
I can jump in if you'd
Thank
like,
you.
Rich. Yes, sir.
Good job.
So
Nice catch.
prior to moving on to item 4.1, we have some new trustees who need to be sworn in. Not always new, but we have trustees who need to be sworn in. So, Mr. Cagorno, if you could come up, and before you take your seat, come on up. We got to do oath of office for trustee Carnation, trustee Ahmad, and trustee Cagorno. So if you could all stand up, please.
All righty.
Hand up. You're going to have to repeat after me. Oh, just these guys. You've been sworn in.
Thank you.
So I state your name,
I, Stephanie Ahmad,
Rich Carnation.
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
You are all officially school board members again. And new.
Thank you. Now, we're gonna have a little break so we can get a couple pictures and then we'll come right back. All right, thanks. Thank you. Okay, send that.
Okay.
You're going to take photos. Can you take them in this area here?
Sure.
It's easier for him to capture you.
Yeah.
So don't move over to the
Yep.
side.
So here we go. I just need someone to take a picture. Hey, buddy. Okay, let's go
It's
get a
okay.
picture. All righty. Love your title.
Is this his?
Hell yeah. Damn right. You got 4 flaws there. Okay, are we supposed to sign these? Jen, are we supposed to sign? Signature of person, that's for Jeremy.
Yeah, I'll just collect all of these guys. They just have to go to the county registrar.
Both sides, they're both.
Stephanie.
She went in the middle.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let me, oh, here she comes.
Oh, and I have to sign.
All righty, I'd like to bring a little order back to the meeting. And I'd like to welcome Paul up here. We're going to have some fun. So I will now, 4.1, Jeremy, do you do this part or do I still do this election off?
You do it.
Okay, so
We can go either way, Rich. It doesn't really make a difference.
Do we get to make, are we saying anything?
I think,
Or are we just moving on?
you know what? Good point. Is there anybody who would like to say anything about our oath of office that we just took? Stephanie or-
about you.
What's that?
Us. I mean us.
Yes,
I
please
do,
talk.
I do. Okay, so I want to talk.
Yes.
No, I just wanted to share something that I haven't talked about publicly that impacted my decision to run again, and that's impacted really my work on the board and kind of my experience over the past year. So I haven't spoken about this publicly. So about 10 months ago, I found a lump in my breast, and it turned like I thought, I'm too young. It's not anything, but I should go and get checked out because that's what you're supposed to do. And it turned out that I had breast cancer. So went in for imaging and it was very clear. And so I was diagnosed, I had a biopsy, and I found all of this out in March of last year. And I came home that day and my ballot had arrived because I was also running for a different office at that time. And my mailer had come and it looked great. And I was like, oh, it came on the same day. That's so awesome. It's too bad I'm not going to be able to run for this anymore, that I won't really be engaged in this election. And so it just, I found this out, and then it was just all about taking care of myself and taking care of the responsibilities I already had. So I'll just tell you kind of what the process was like. So I had surgery. I had a double mastectomy and reconstructive surgery. Then I recovered for a few weeks, and then I started chemotherapy. So I had a port put in, and chemotherapy, you basically get an IV of drugs you are injected by IV. So I did 16 infusions over a 5-month period. And then after that, and being on chemotherapy, you kind of feel like you're physically and mentally under a weight, like weighted down by bricks. Like you just feel like you don't quite have the energy to do as much as you want to be able to do. But got through it and then did radiation therapy, and which is basically like a tanning booth is the best way to describe it, a very targeted tanning booth. But having that experience really caused me to reflect on my priorities and what I'm passionate about and really what I want to say yes to, because I do like to work hard. Like I like to work. And I really love being part of this board. And so during that time, I also ran for reelection to the school board. And I was fortunate enough to win that election and be back here with you tonight. So I feel really lucky to have gone through what I did and to be where I am right now, and with kind of a knowledge of this is where I really want to be. And I'm really excited to be here. And I am really humbled by the support that I got. And I think something that's really just incredibly coincidental is that my last radiation treatment was yesterday. And today I'm swearing in to a new term. So I just wanted to share that and just say that I'm really excited about the next 4 years, and I know we're going to get a lot done and do a lot of good work for our students. And I'm excited to do it with everyone here.
So I guess you want to hear from the newest board member. I'm really excited about the opportunity to serve on this board. It was quite the experience. The campaign was quite the experience. I'm humbled by the response that I got from the community, and I really look forward to serving the students of Windsor and this fine board. Is going to be hard. I'm filling some big shoes. I get that. I understand it. But I'm here to listen and learn, and I know with all your experience that it'll be good. I'm excited. Thank you.
Likewise, I'm glad that I get a chance to serve again. Like probably all of us, none of us grew up wanting to be on the school board. And then, well, I mean, it's just, it's kind of something that shows up and it's an opportunity, or you see a need or whatever. And then most people that, have a kind of a servant's heart or whatever, kind of see a need, and then they volunteer to jump in and help others. We've all been students, and we all know that somebody and somebody's made a difference in our lives when we were growing up. And so we have the opportunity to do that for others. And that's what we get to do on the board. And so it's pretty exciting. I'm really excited that Stephanie chose to run again. I don't know. Stephanie and I have a great relationship. We're very good friends. So I know she can understand this when I say, well, the fact that, she had cancer and she was recovering. If she didn't have cancer, I don't know if there would have been any votes left over for Paul and I and Eric to get any of, because she was dominating them all. She's got a whole bunch, because the whole town loves her. And they see what a Jim, they know what we know of what a Jim you are. It's great to work with you. And so anyhow, I look forward to the next 4 years. I'm glad also, with COVID kind of hitting, it kind of ripped us off of 2 years of progress that I felt like we could have made in areas. We made a lot of progress. Today, I was super, super swamped, and I forgot to bring it. But when Stephanie and I, when we ran 4 years ago, we had the 3-year multi-year projection to look forward. And I was going to bring it tonight so I could show everybody of what we were in dire straits 4 years ago. Actually, that's not even, we were one step past that. And we'll talk about it later in Austin's presentation. And I wanted to bring up some things about it that I think are important for us to remember. But But I'm just very excited. The team that is here in our district right now is excellent. The board members that we have, I think we're a very, very capable group of folks. I look forward to Paul when we met and, the things we talked about. And so there's some areas that we all want to see improving in the district. And I think that you have some unique skill sets and experiences that I think are going to be very helpful in that endeavor as well. So anyhow, that said, looking forward to the next 4 years. Glad to be serving with all of you. And I appreciate the opportunity. So with that, let's move on.
I forgot to say
Oh,
something. I just wanted to clarify, the form of cancer I had was also very treatable. So I also, everything is fine now. So I just wanted to say that too, that it was very aggressive, but it was also treatable. So we beat it. And I, currently presumed to be cancer-free. So I'm also fine going forward. So just wanted to throw that in because I, didn't end it. So clarify.
Awesome. So now it's 4.1, election of vice president. Is there anybody that would like to nominate someone to be the vice president?
I would nominate Melanelli.
I would second that motion. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Did you say aye?
Do I vote on this?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I want to make sure Malinelli said aye.
Aye.
Okay, there we go. All righty. So that would be 501, motion carries. All righty. And then moving on to 4.2, election of president. I'd like to nominate Bill Adams to be the new school board president.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All righty. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that carries 5-0 and 1. And I think we should stop for just a second right there. Would our new vice president and our new president, would they like to say anything?
I just want to say thank you so much. I'm so honored. I really was just reflecting in my mind on what you said earlier, Rich, which is that, when we were growing up, really none of us wanted to probably be here. And I just want to say I grew up in this school district. So this is home for me. And, I'm really proud to have my daughter in the school district. So it's, really, really home for me. And I just want to say that I also had a memory that, when I was in elementary school, the majority of the kids in the school were not Latino, and we were in the small minority. And I have a very vivid memory of the school district superintendent at the time, coming to me and telling me, you're a really special kid. You're really going to go far in life. And I think maybe that was just one of two conversations I had with him. So I didn't know him very well, but I just remember it went so far for me, just because at the time when I was growing up, there was a lot of discrimination against Latinos. I was constantly made fun of in school because Spanish was my first language. And I was just learning English, just with everybody else. And also, my parents didn't speak English, so I was constantly translating for them, with the very basic English that I did have. And I just remember, feeling very stigmatized. And sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional because the words of the superintendent, they just meant so much to me, in that context, of being discriminated against and stigmatized. And I think that's what brings me here. So I'm so honored. Thank you.
You got to get busy. So now you get to switch with me and you get to be a backbencher sitting here next to Jackson, who will keep you on the straight and narrow. I trust.
But who's gonna protect Jackson? Okay.
Switch our nameplates.
There we go.
Switch the.
Now you got to put that on.
Yep.
Okay.
There you go. Ready.
Rich, we have a plaque for you.
Yeah. There we go.
There you get hers. Do-si-do.
Oopsie, oopsie.
There you go. That's those on there from back in the day when there was such acrimony on the board.
Then,
Before we were
see,
on.
where's my thing? Where'd it go?
Oh. Oh, I'm in the street. You have the plaque?
These are just some things for you to sign.
Where's the plaque? Where's the plaque? Do we have the plaque? Where's the plaque?
Oh, whoa. What in the heck is going on here?
There's the tape. Use a bigger hammer.
There we go. I'm a contractor. I know how to fix that
You
thing.
got your plaque? Here, put your hand up.
What?
Hold your plaque up and put your hand up.
Tag in the back.
It's all right, yes, sir.
There we go. You're a
Where's your,
mean one.
where's your plaque?
Oh, I didn't, is there food in this?
And no swearing. You're out of money.
Oh, wow.
That's
Here we go.
nice.
Okay, hold it up so she can see. Oh, I gotta shake your hand.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, there we go. Congratulations. Take your mask off for the picture.
Okay, oh, that's right.
You have so many helpers now that
Here,
you're not sitting.
hold on.
No,
Here, let me.
no, put your hand on.
No, we're good, we're good.
All right, congratulations. We good? Okay, let's get busy.
Thank you.
You bet.
Spell it right. Oh, I like the font, Jen. Very good.
Okay, do we have, so thank you, Rich, very much for your leadership. We have had a busy year, and thank you also, Jeremy, for keeping us on track when you got back after COVID and the whole team. It's an honor to be back. I've done this before. Sort of like you go to the bathroom and you get elected foreman of the jury or something like that, you know. Anyway, glad to be here, and Paul, welcome. Again, I think there are big shoes to fill, and I really appreciate that we have a teacher's voice. Both you and Eric give us that continuity that we don't really otherwise have. So thank you for stepping up and doing this. Do we have that spreadsheet of the different positions? Maybe we could pass that out to the board members. Do we have an extra copy that people can look at? Okay, you have it? All right, do you have it? Okay, if you could share with Mally. So what we're going to do is we go through 4.3. We have a matrix that we need to fill out. And those are our additional board responsibilities. I would like to nominate myself as the representative to the committee, for the County Committee on School District Organization. Is there someone who would like to step up to be the alternate?
Yes, I want to stay on it.
Okay, so that would be Rich and I, unless there is some opposition. I'm going to go rapidly through these. So if somebody has, particularly when you get to liaisons and things, or Paul, if you have questions about some of them, we'll go ahead and ask them. As president, I would like to step off both. I think I'm on the Facilities Committee. Is there,
I'd like to step on if you'd like to step off.
okay, so Stephanie on Facilities. I know, Rich, you're on it. Would you like to stay?
I'd like to stay on that one for the next little bit.
Okay. And the Policy Committee, who are the members of that right now?
It was
I'm-
Stephanie and Eric.
Okay. Would you like to go on the Policy Committee, Melanie?
Sure.
Okay.
I will stay.
Okay.
That's kind of my reading policies and
It's exhilarating
It's-
work.
it's what I do.
Should I be scared?
Yeah, I would like to stay. We have an ad hoc that still remains related to the North of Arata acquisition.
I think continuity is important.
And
on this
I
one.
would like to stay on that with Rich and I. And that would, if, for lack of a better word, that would be almost a dotted line off the Facilities Committee with Rich and Stephanie. What I would suggest, Paul, for you is you can come. These are committees that aren't a quorum, so that way we don't have to notice the meetings. But for both of them, you can probably do some test drive and come along. So we do have a lot of facilities things, and I think more than ever before this year in 23, we'll be diving in deeply. We're going to have a facilities master plan that will come in. So for a number of years, we haven't really done a great deal of facility stuff. I mean, really since we repurposed Windsor Creek and consolidated some schools. So I didn't want you to think you were being omitted, but both of those are kind of coming up to speed. Of the two of them, probably the Policy Committee is the one to start to get on because we periodically get these policies from the School Board Association. And I'll sit and talk to you about those. And I'm sorry, I'm going to look on with Paul because I have on the list as we go through the rest of these.
Can I recommend
Yes.
Paul for the LCAP committee?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here it is here, okay? And anybody else who wants to be on the LCAP committee who hasn't done it, did you do it this year? Mel?
Rich did it this year.
I did
Rich,
it this year.
Rich has done it?
Have you done it before?
I did it before.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Let's go back up to the top at the community liaisons. For the Windsor High School Boosters, that's currently Stephanie, and these could be, you know what, I'm going to give Paul the right of first refusal. Why don't you go through and look and say the things you would like to do, Paul, or something that maybe floats your boat, and then we can backfill around you. Or we can answer questions about what they may be about. I will be the liaison to the town council. Historically, that's the mayor and the school board president. So if you'd replace me there, Jen, for Rich.
Oh, the town council.
Yeah.
Okay.
Much like Jeremy works directly with John Davis, the city manager, the president and mayor work together.
What is the Windsor Educational Foundation?
Ms. Ahmad, as former president of that august body, would you like to?
It is a nonprofit, a local nonprofit that raises money for students in the Windsor School District. And I can put you in touch with them.
That sounds interesting.
That would be very helpful to engage on that side. Yeah, let's put Paul down then for the WE Foundation.
Guys, we should probably also add the combined Maddie and Brooks PTA to this list if we have the Cali PTA on there. Or remove the Cali PTA.
I was
one or
thinking
the other.
perhaps the Cali and Windsor and Brooks PTA also are the school liaisons, unless you think that's too much work.
I think that makes sense.
Okay. So let's go ahead and strike that separate line of the Cali PTA. And Terry, you're here? Since you, I know the Cali PTA has been substantial for years. Do you see any problem subsuming that position into the Cali board liaison? Historically, we've had two different board members. Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah, I should also ask, you know, a thing or two about Cali there. Assistant Superintendent, any problem you see with that? Is there expectation from the Cali PTA team that they would have their own? No, I'm getting, okay.
I have no clue because my board members were scattered and busy.
Okay.
So
Well, we're going to have a new 2023, so that's good.
it would be helpful it might be helpful. I was going to reach out, but I was swamped with Cali stuff.
Cool.
Reach
All
out
right.
to them.
Good. So we'll consolidate one. High school boosters.
I can take that one over if Stephanie's,
Go for it.
all right.
Okay. And the Windsor Wellness Partnership. That is a community group that I think is somewhat moribund now.
Is it, yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it's active
Yeah,
anymore.
I think I was and had been on it, and it was not doing much for COVID. Let's leave that as a question mark right now, Jen, and maybe I'll.
Olivia said that it disbanded.
They disbanded this fall.
Thank you, Olivia. It pays to have,
Oh, that one's gone.
Good job.
you know, this is what, less bureaucracy.
Good job.
okay?
You
You
killed it,
know,
Bill.
you
Yeah.
get new government in. Look at that. We've already
Yeah,
cut two.
There you go.
Cali Leadership. So is that the leadership connection to their
Are those,
directors
did you
at the
combine
charter
the-
school?
did you combine those in, Bill? The Cali Leadership and the Cali PTA?
No.
Cali, yeah.
I don't know
Was
if we
that,
need a
was that
Cali
to the
leadership.
Cali Charter School Board? Let's strike that as well.
It's
Which one?
unnecessary.
The Cali Leadership. Nothing personal for the Caliites who are watching and playing at home, but
The Cali Leadership.
I had always thought that was maybe a direct connection to the Cali sort of advisory board, to the principal as a charter school, but we get that through the administration of the school. Okay, good. God, we're down three. Paul's on that one. Windsor Advocates for Music, that is somewhat the Windsor Arts Now. What I'd like to do is nominate you for that if you're available, Mally. Yes. So Windsor Advocates for Music, let's change that to Windsor Arts Now. It's through Creative California. And I think particularly with our Prop 28 money and reinvigorating our strategic visual and performing arts plan this year, that hopefully will get reinvigorated. It was Joella Olson was the moving force behind that, kind of to Laura's report about Steve Mitchell. And I don't think she is. I think she spends most of her time in Germany with her son now. So, but we'll find out how to kickstart that. Okay, so for schools, sites, again, Paul, why don't you take the first crack at that? We have a liaison. I'd like to have us formalize that a little bit more. It's been, Stephanie had an idea that maybe we would go and either meet or go have eat lunch at there or something and go. but each board member is assigned, and you would go and meet with the principal and their site councils and get to know those people. So I think you know the different schools that we have. My suggestion would be to perhaps start with one that you're not familiar with. I don't know if you have kids who went to school here or not.
I did.
Okay.
My kids went through
Okay,
all these, except for Cali.
except for Cali. Would you like to start as the Cali liaison? Do you think that's doable, Madam Principal Former? Okay, let's put Paul down then for Cali Calmecca. They will probably be calling you tomorrow because their PTA person is out there in the, so, yeah, wonderful. Thank you for stepping up on that. And that's about 23 or 24% of our student body is at Cali these days. Okay, how about somebody, I'll just take sort of interest from the field for people who, again, to liaisons to the different schools. I'll go last to whatever's left over.
I'll take the high school if nobody else wants it.
I was going to ask for North Bay Met and Oaks, if
Okay.
that's okay.
Okay, let's
Is
put
that-
Stephanie
is that
for Forest and North Bay Oak and Met, Rich going back home to the high school. Do you mind serving as the DLAC liaison again, Mally?
Sure.
Okay, let's put Mally down as the DLAC, that's the District English Language Learners. You're familiar with that? So
What do we have left?
I will,
Middle school.
I'd like to do Brooks. I haven't done Brooks for a while. Do you have a choice between either Maddie or Windsor Middle School?
Me?
You got to pick one.
Maddie or Windsor Middle?
I'll go for Windsor Middle.
Okay. Would you mind then also taking Maddie Washburn since?
I'll take Maddie again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. We did the school district ones, and the north of Arata, again, is going to remain. Yeah, anything else? Any other liaison growths? We cut three,
I'd like
and
to also be on the town council.
a liaison with the town council? Sure. Why don't you be, you'll be alternate, right, with me? Good. Yeah, great point. So, so let's put / Mally, because when we have them, we can both go, and I think that would be helpful with the new team there too.
Can I be the DLAC alternate?
You can.
Thank you.
Let's flesh this out now. Who's got a burning desire? Yeah. So we'll look at the Windsor Wellness. If there are other liaison groups, I am not aware of them. I have thought, and Jeremy and I have talked about this, but one of these days, perhaps having liaison, and Olivia might, jump on this, to the Chamber of Commerce. We do not have like a direct, school to business liaison. So let's think about, do we want to, since we cut 1, 2, 3 in the new Bill Adams streamlined government, not Rich Carnation's government. But it's in all seriousness, if there are some places we may want to connect, and Jackson, I'd be interested with you as well. Is there stuff that we might want to formalize relations to or with and be open to that? But we need to get this. So again, Jen, you'll get this done and get it pushed out maybe like tomorrow before you go home, and everybody can see that. And then what I'll do is email with Jeremy, and we can figure out, what I'd like you to do is when you send that, Jen, if you would not mind, particularly for the school liaisons, put the lists of, I think we all know them, but just particularly for Paul, put the name and the email address of that principal, the chief administrator, but more importantly, your counterpart, whoever the admin staff member is in the office for that school administrator. And then, we all can sort of come back in the early part of January and report our connections. And even the PTA president. So there is a PTA at Cali. You're welcome, Paul. There's a PTA at Brooks, and there's a PTA at Maddie, right? Okay, why don't you guys feed all that in? Okay. Anything else on that? And we just sort of lumped 4-3 to 4-6. Thank you for your patience on that. That didn't take as long as I thought. If there are buyer's remorse or something comes up where we want to swap, we can certainly do that as we roll in. To me, the most important thing is that you let those school administrators know that you're their person as we roll into 23, because I really think we need to start that program.
Bill,
Sir,
is it possible I could be the a student liaison as well. Since Stephanie mentioned that new program that's out there, I could go back
math?
and increase my GPA. Just helping you out. There you go.
I didn't bring my $200 to start swearing at you. Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion for the manner in which we went through that the board approves those assignments and self-nominations for items 4.3 to 4.6 for the school board organization.
I make the motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mallory. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, we have a 5-0-1. Okay. I saw that we had an update on the school board meeting dates. Maybe you could talk about that, Jeremy, for 4.7.
Yeah, we try to do them all the same week of the month, but for March, that didn't work. March 15th is a critical date for personnel for many things in the district. And so the board meeting was going to fall on the 16th. So instead, we backed it up to the 9th. Other than that, it's pretty traditional calendar from what we've had over the past few years.
I didn't catch that one. I think I might be out of, well, are we able to call in
Yes.
still?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
The
I'm-
difference would be, I think, once February comes, I believe the COVID Hybrid Brown Act, well, it depends what happened with COVID, but it was predicted that AB 361 is going to change. So we would simply have to announce and put where you're calling in from, like you always were able to under the Brown Act.
Yeah.
So we need to know that 4 or 5 days in advance. Okay. And again, for Paul and everyone else, we used to have 2 meetings a month regularly. Right now, we meet the third Thursday. And I would say a third to a half of those months, we probably have either a special workshop or items that come up, right? And I imagine come January, I'll have worked with Jeremy and we can outline what some of those might be. Yeah. Okay. I would also like to put on here, only because it came up, and I don't know, do you know if the School Boards Association meeting in December of '23 is going to be up in San Francisco again?
I do not know,
Okay,
but
we will get a report on that
find
in
out.
January, but we
I could
may
look.
want to plan before I left my backbench seat next to student trustee Caligari. He said, hey, when do we go to San Diego for the thing, which was 10 days ago? So, sorry.
It's in San Francisco for
Yeah.
23.
23, good. So we can plan on getting down there. Okay, any other comments or questions about the proposed school board dates for 2023 then, item 4.7? Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Malinelli. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That passes 5-0-1. Cool. If it's, do you want to try and do the consent or you want to stand that up for next time? Vice President usually does those.
Oh, next time.
Okay, so I will make a motion. The consent items are listed, items 5.1 through 5.8. I am not aware of any conflicts. Is any board member aware of any conflicts for any of those 8 consent items? Do any board members want to pull any of those consent items for further conversation? We can ask questions about them after we have a motion, but is there any that need to get pulled, sir?
I'll just make a motion that we approve.
Okay, is there a second on the consent action
I
item?
will
We'll get you.
second, and I'd like to discuss item 5.4.
Okay, we will come to that in a second.
And just, I wanted to make them 5.2, just a quick comment about that.
Okay. We'll go ahead and have the comments then. Stephanie, you spoke first. We'll do 5.4, then Rich on
I'll tell.
5.2.
And there's public comment on one of the items as well.
And we will then go to the public for comment on any of the items if they would like to. Go ahead.
Great. So 5.4 is, involves job descriptions for a new wellness center and wellness position. And I just wanted some more information on that, kind of whether that comes from a requirement, what it is, what we'll be doing, just so we know and so the community knows. So just a little overview. Thank you.
So Sharon will back me up on some of this because she's been working very closely with Grace Marie Curtin, who is the vice principal at Windsor High School. So it has been a Sonoma County initiative and really pushed through SCO to raise our awareness of some of the social emotional concerns we have bubbling up in the county. And at the forefront of this movement is something that Sonoma County Office of Education is pushing forward with, which is a wellness center. And we would be a flagship program running through the high school. The basic design would look something like a central office where we would have what it's turned out to be 2 credentialed people. One would be a credentialed, it could be MFT or like credential.
PPS.
PPS, okay. And then the other would be a credentialed teacher who would be the support provider to that person and also kind of be the onboarding for all of the students who come in and would be an outreach representative for the program. The idea is also to kind of piggyback on that would be to bring interns in from a variety of different locations, our neighboring universities, to train them and to work with them in this program, but provide full services to our students and families, our students with family support with this program. So the descriptions that you're looking at and the background information, which was provided by Grace, is kind of the thrust of what it is that we're moving forward with. Windsor High School is committed to addressing these findings. Let's see. Grace had some pretty good information here reported. So yeah, just it's in response to the trends in the county.
And just to clarify, this is just the job description, not the position yet. So there's no money tied to this approval today. This is only approving a job description. To approve the position will come back before you if we move forward.
There are a couple of grants that Grace is working on that will fund an initial year and then a subsequent year. I think it's 200 and then 500,000.
500, yeah. And the job descriptions, the basic premise comes from the meetings we've been attending through SCO, where they have a consultant coming in who's opened wellness centers all over the country. And so we modified it to fit our needs specifically in Windsor a little bit more. And I think it's important to know that the committee that's working on this is also composed of students. So there's a lot of student voice and student input as well.
Yep.
Item 5.2, Rich?
Basically, I just want to, it's kind of more of a discussion that down the road, Jeremy, I talked to you about that.
Yep.
Being a former coach, it was always, actually, I didn't do it right. I didn't even know about the policy with the overnights and all the different stuff. And what I would like to do is figure out some way to kind of semi-streamline this. Jeremy and I talked about that where the principals and or superintendent can approve these things without it coming to the board. They are aware of the standards that we have. They sometimes things come up, opportunities come up really quick and since we only meet once a month, that we just don't have the time. So I want to be able to empower our staff to be able to do that. And then it can come to us later in a retro manner if it needs to be, or even not. So it's just a discussion, a parking lot type of thing for maybe.
Would bring back a board policy potentially. Right now, it requires board approval for overnight field trips.
Right. So, I mean, there's just, I don't want to do it for, these would be more like sports or extracurricular. For example, parents, when the kids sign up for like football, for example, they know that they're going to go to certain games, the schedule's kind of made, but then if they have North Coast playoffs, those kind of things, sometimes not in football per se, but other sports, they have to travel and go to certain places. So there's some implied travel that parents are already aware of, but I just want to figure out a way to streamline it, because there was a couple times when I was coaching that this came up, and opportunities come up for a kid that all of a sudden gets invited to a certain tournament that can get them national recognition. So you're not only just traveling outside of or in California overnight, but you maybe going to other states. So I don't know the right way to do it. I just want to bring it up that there's a way that we need to empower our staff to do it.
If there's support from the board, I can bring that item back.
Yeah, I would be very interested, again, back to what Laura said about Camp Cass. My son went there, and I know there are other recurring events, not just music and arts, but science or something, that if we can get that schedule in advance as we're rolling into the school year, we could almost, it seems to me, pre-approve it. I mean, if it's funding, if it's contingent on funding. So yeah, let's let's look at that. I think
Yeah.
that's good. And then for the ones that are a non-off, a one-off out of the blue, those would be sort of by exception. I know sometimes early when I was on the board, we found out that our national championship, I don't think they'd won the championship at that point, but a number of van loads of really, really competitive Windsor cheerleaders had spent 4 nights in Las Vegas kicking butt and cheering, and we found out 8 or 10 or 12 days later. Fortunately, it was a good trip, but yeah, I'd be interested in, as a board, any concerns by the board on taking some time on that policy?
No,
Okay.
I'd love to see it on the policy subcommittee. So.
Now that you've sat down, I'd like to, since again, Laura mentioned it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Talk about, Pete, the classified music instruction specialist 2. I read the materials, but maybe if you could just talk a little bit about that and what your understanding about how that expands the program. To my understanding, that is a first for our district.
Yes, and just so we're all clear, this is also not for hire yet. These are all preliminary. And Laura and I have been working a little bit on this in as well. And I do have a response. I could go a little out of order, but the program or the position itself is just, it's an opportunity to open up more arts and primarily music for the lower levels. And it's through the VAPA initiative that we have through the district. And Elizabeth Robertson has been helping us with a lot of the job description creation and kind of envisioning what the position would look like. So we are able to better provide opportunities for kids at the lower levels for exposure to music. So hopefully they would then recreate that in the middle school and then see more of it again in the high school, just to build interest. And also, she is a unique person in that she's a credentialed teacher. She's also a VAPA advocate and a music teacher. And she likes to couple a lot of the opportunities in music with the correlation between that and the increase in interest in school and in higher grades and better math scores, et cetera. So I think all of it is what we hope to achieve, but this is just one phase of it. So just creating that job description and then working through that with them to hopefully realize what this will eventually be. And it's still in the building stages. The job description is just phase 1. She's still working diligently to make sure that we can realize this and support the sites through this.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Before we go out to public comment on any of the consent items, any other questions or comments from the board? Jackson? No? Okay. Was there someone who had public comment? Yes, come on up, Laura.
It was about 5.3.
Okay.
And, by the way, welcome, Trustee Cagorno. It was about 5.3 because what caught my eye is that it's classified rather than certificated. And because it is a requirement is a credential, they must have a credential. So I was curious as to why it's not a credentialed, certificated position, why it goes under classified.
Can you address that, Pete?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the design so far is that there will always be a teacher in the room. So this position doesn't have to be a certificated teaching position, but it was a consideration early on. And again, this is just job description, nothing is set yet. But I'll read the response that Elizabeth gave me. She's the closest to it. She's not only an advocate, she's a huge supporter of it. And, she's very close to the subject and the profession. And her rationale is that there is a severe shortage of certificated music instructors in Sonoma County right now. Several of our neighboring districts have had open credentialed positions remain unfilled for the last 2 years. Making the position classified allows the district to hire qualified music teachers who may have ample music teaching experience, but not a credential. For example, many music and dance specialists have completed advanced training and certification programs, but do not want to be credentialed. They will also allow us to drop from the pool of teaching artists in our county. Additionally, because the position is for grades 2 and 3, it is not mandated prep, and the classroom teacher will already be in the classroom, as I just said. So.
Thank you. And I think this is one where we could potentially look as our Prop 28 money, the 500, and did it go up this month since 539,000, whatever it is, for maybe doing both, right? Because there are some requirements in there for certification, classification criteria that it needs to have some things, and we need to really roll up our sleeve and get going on that because the money's going to start to roll in, knock on wood, on July 1. Okay.
Yeah, and it was,
Any-
we
go
were
ahead.
still, we were writing this when those decisions were being made. So
Right,
this, everything's
understand.
new now.
Understand.
Yep.
But the money's flowing now, and that's a good thing. Better than going the other way. Okay, any other comments from the floor or the public about the consent calendar? That's a good, robust conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, there has been a motion and a second to approve consent action items 5.1 through 5.8. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Let's pass that on a 501. Thank you. Ms. Lamont, thank you very much for your patience here, talking to us about who's working and what's in place. This is the Kaiser Park Master Plan update presented by Olivia Lamont, the Town of Windsor Parks and Recreation Director. Congratulations on your elevation once the predecessor, our friend John Davis, became town manager. Welcome, and a very good friend to the district for those of you who don't know Olivia personally.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And I will turn down the option to be a citrus. And so my name is actually Olivia Lehman. And no, it was written in the agenda. So good evening, President and council members, excuse me, there's habit for you. Trustees, I am Olivia Lehman. I am the Parks and Recreation Director with the Town of Windsor. And I'm here this evening to present a project that we've been working on for a better part of a year. And so we've got some great updates. And so the intention really this evening is to introduce the project, give you a little bit of background and some updates on the outreach and community outreach that we've provided. And then we really start to roll up our sleeves and get into the good stuff. So we are going to present 3 very high level preliminary site designs, and we will be looking for feedback from the board to then help us push us into our next phase of the project. As I mentioned, I'm with the town. We have hired and are working with Gates and Associates, which is a consulting firm out of the East Bay. They're a landscape architect firm, but also have aquatic and architectural specialists, as well as environmental team and financial advisors as part of our comprehensive plan and project team. A little bit about, just to get everybody in alignment, we are talking about Kaiser Park, which flanks the Windsor High School parking lot and ball fields and Windsor River Road. The town recently acquired additional properties. You can see the 3 properties with asterisks are 625 Wall Street, 450 Duncan, and 475 Ginny Drive. We do want to just acknowledge that the district is considering or has already purchased 2 additional properties that create this contiguous large parcel that has the potential and the possibility, which we'll be discussing this evening. Really how we and why we got here. So the original Kaiser Park master plan was approved by the town council in 2008. And then shortly thereafter, phase 1 was built out. And phase 1 includes the northern part of the park, what we call ball field A, which is the larger ball field, and then ball fields B and C, which are the smaller ones. The parking spaces, the pathways, and the playground and the play area up at the top portion of the park. Phase 2 and phase 3 were always called out and considered within this original master plan, and they included an aquatic center, additional parking, and a community center and a gym. We have yet to build these out, obviously. We still have ball fields where those images are. But we really wanted to revisit this master plan and incorporate the expansion properties and really consider what is the best new layout now that we have additional properties to consider and expand the park. And so we're revisiting this plan. We're vetting out if the interests still hold with the community, which was what was determined in 2008. And then finally, we want to really evaluate and identify funding mechanisms and partnerships so that we can really move this project forward and bring the build out and development of Kaiser Park to fruition. Part of this project will include some early environmental and CEQA work. So at the end of when we have a final document that the town council approves, it will include the early environmental work that will get us to the next phase, which would then be seeking funding to develop construction drawings and taking us really to the point where once we have a project fully funded, we can then put it out to bid and put a shovel in the ground, which is exciting. A little bit of history from the town's perspective. The development and the build out of Kaiser Park and the expansion of the park is identified in both the town's 2040 general plan as well as the town's Parks and Recreation master plan, which takes us to 2030. There are multiple goals and priorities within both plans that this project is consistent with, and which is why the town staff and town council continue to move forward in finalizing this project and developing it. As our project schedule I mentioned, we've been at this for more than a year. We originally brought our consultants on early in 21, and then we were working in the early stages in document analysis, site review, really trying to come up with our constraints and what we had. We did not want to go back to square one. We didn't want to scrap all the work that had been done up until this point. So it was really critical that our consultants and our team looked at all of the information that had already been compiled between our bike and pedestrian master plan, our parks and recreation master plan, all of our facilities and site assessments. We've done outreach. We need to gather that outreach and we need to start from there and refine and move forward. So we weren't opening up the entire bag to say, what is it that you want? We were saying, out of these items that were already identified as high priorities in the community, how do we refine those scopes, scope of work within this project to really implement the master plan that meets all of those needs? We did pause the project while we could really revisit both with the school district and with the town council, really identify where the priorities were and whether there was an interest to work together. And so we had some really great conversations around partnership opportunities. And in February of this year, we brought the project back forward. Town council gave some initial direction, and then town staff and our consultant team started our stakeholder interviews and our community outreach process, which took us through the summer months and into the fall. And then we presented at a joint meeting in September to both the board and the town council our outreach findings so that we could really understand what it is the community was sharing and what we were using as a baseline to develop our preliminary site designs. And so that's where we are this evening. I'll get into the fun stuff in a second. Where we go from here. After we receive feedback from the board this evening, we will make some fine-tuning, tweaking, and then we will be going out in early February to do community charrettes. So we will be bringing in, they will be open to the community, opportunities for the public to sit down in small groups and really help with the feedback process around the design of the buildings and the layout that you will see this evening. Upon that, we're going to continue to refine. We'll probably be back to you early spring for another update such as this. And our goal is to have a master plan update completed by the middle of 23. I'm going to go just quickly through this. Some of the outreach opportunities that we did host. As I mentioned, stakeholder and focus groups. We had a large social media and website presence. We hosted an online survey. We held multiple community groups and attended community activities that were already happening on the town green. Summer night concerts, El Mercadito, Farmers Market. We actually had the high school student interns who came and helped us gather information and solicit that feedback at these events. And then we had our joint meeting with the school board and the town council in September. And just recently, we hosted a new neighbor meeting specifically for the neighbors that live in those neighborhoods adjacent to the parks property that we just purchased. So the neighbors on Spencer, Wall Street, Ginny, and Duncan were all invited to provide feedback, specifically because of the proximity that the park will have to their properties. We're here this evening. We presented to the town council this same presentation last week, received their feedback as well. And then, as I mentioned, we'll go back out to the community in February. So just a high level, these were some of the outreach that we did do. We had signage on the properties, in the parks. We were on social media platforms. We were at events, and we've had multiple meetings. And so really what we're operating on is 6 themes. So the messaging from the community was fairly clear. There was a love of Kaiser Park and what it already offers and provides the community. And some of those things that we heard were social and physical opportunities to get outside, have picnics, engage with each other, their neighbors, their friends, having a space to be able to have those connections. There was also a strong connection with nature. The oak grove that separates the park and the parking lot and the high school came up time and time again around a real gem and a treasured component of the park. And so making sure that piece is really maintained through this project was important. A strong voice on the fact that play is still really popular and is important within the community, and we need to have play spaces. As well as a balanced passive and active spaces. So not only do we need to have ball fields and playgrounds, but we also need to have walking paths and, areas where benches and picnic areas so that we can really balance. The park right now has a nice balance between a very quiet, serene environment. We've got the seasonal creek that goes through it. We have the oak grove, and then we have ball fields. And if you go there on a Saturday in May, it's a constant turnover of baseball teams coming in. So it really already provides that, and we need to maintain that balance. Clean, safe, and well-maintained spaces was important to the public, as well as ensuring that anything that we create and develop is diverse and all-inclusive for our community. Again, I mentioned of all the survey responses, what is loved most about Kaiser Park currently is walking trails. And the Oak Grove comes up behind it, as well as the playground. While attending special events and activities were important, they definitely ranked high. This is where we really started to see we need to create something that has that balance for the community. So with all of that, what we identified were areas that we were not going to touch. We wanted to give confidence to the community that we're not completely throwing out everything within the plan and starting from scratch. So the areas that you can see identified, phase 1 of the 2008 master plan will not be changed, while we may add, small benefits like additional amenities and, enhanced pathways. For the most part, we are not looking at development in those areas. And the same with the Oak Grove. In addition, the property that has the large green dot in the center of it is the Wall Street property. And that property was purchased with a grant from the Sonoma County Agricultural and Open Space District. And with those grant funds comes a requirement for a conservation easement on top of that property, which will not, it will restrict the activities that we can do there. So you will see in the site designs that there are more passive and natural spaces or use of those spaces as opposed to development of a building or a parking lot. We're trying to ensure that we stay within the easement requirements. And then you can see there, we've still got the two properties at Ginny and Duncan, which are available for have full flexibility, as well as the two additional properties that the district is in consideration or has purchased. Some of the highest ranked amenities that the community wanted us to consider. No surprise, the community wants a pool, and the aquatic center ranked higher than anything else, resoundingly. And so we do see that as a high priority for the development of this expansion of the park. And then when asking the community what they wanted within the aquatic center, a strong draw for lap and instructional pool, as well as water play structures and water slides. We also asked around community center and recreation center. While they did rank high, not quite as high as the community center, but still a strong draw for a gymnasium, a team center, and multi-purpose community rooms, which we hear a lot. I mean, there is a strong need for flex space in the community. So again, here's where we're looking at. These are the areas that we have to play with. And we see as flexible as far as design and development ideas. You will see, we've talked about some of this. These are the area and the elements that we have identified as important to include. Another thing that we are really talking about and considering through this process is access. How do people access the park currently, and what are the potential and the opportunities for future access? And this was a strong conversation with our neighbors, because they currently have dead-end residential streets. And the change, of those streets will really change the feel and the dynamic of their neighborhood. And more than anything else, that was our conversation, looking at those small residential streets and how do we utilize those within this plan. So you can see here, there's lots of options right now, and they're called out within the 3 site designs. We also really wanted to focus on park circulation, both pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicle. There's already a decent circulation, but there's no real solid connection to Jaguar. So you will see that come up in some of these ideas. And so with that, I'm going to jump right in. So we have 3 site designs for feedback and discussion this evening. I will just make a couple notes. They are not to scale. So when we were talking with council last week, you'll see that we've really just placed boxes, because we're talking high level. We're looking at boxes on a map, really looking at proximity and layout and flow and connection. And then we will begin, once we can all really refine where it is that these boxes will go, then we will start to really build scale within the project. So you're going to see 3 site designs. We've really talked about them in terms of how they are engaging within the park as it exists today. So the first site design is the activated edges. It's going to propose, the proposed changes occur predominantly along the park edges in the new parcels. The creek enhancement property, it now shifts the proposed development to the dirt lot, which is what is currently the stadium overflow parking. And then centralized programming is the one that's most similar to our 2008 master plan. And so here is the first one. This is the activated edges site design. As you can see, a majority of the new development occurs on the new parcels with access or vehicle access from Jaguar Way. It has also pedestrian entry points from Ginny and Duncan and Wall Street. So those are pedestrian only entry points. It maintains the ball fields that are currently in their current location, which are the old fields of Yucatil and Bertozzi. And it utilizes the Wall Street property as a smaller natural play area. There is a tree in the center of that Wall Street property that is a large, beautiful heritage oak tree. And in many conversations with the previous property owner, Jim Cornwell, who grew up on that property, he inherited it from his parents when they passed. And it was his parents' chicken farm when he was a child. And he used to have a tree house and a swing in that tree. So it is a healthy heritage oak. And the intention at this point is to keep the tree and work around it. This site also creates a possible flex or event space over where the dirt lot is, whether it's additional parking or whether it's additional programming space that can be fleshed out during this process. The second site design is the creek engagement. This shifts everything entirely. It moves the gymnasium, the rec center, the pool, the aquatic center, really as far away as from residential impact. There are homes on the other side of the creek. They are blocked by quite a few trees. It moves the ball fields to the new properties. And so that there's still we don't lose any ball field space as part of this design. The parking is all connected from the vehicle entrance and parking is all connected from Windsor River Road, and only pedestrian access from the other entry points. And then the last one is the central programming option. This, as I mentioned, falls fairly close in line with the 2008 plan. It maintains some parking close to the stadium and consolidates all of the facilities in the development on the current fields that are Yucatil and Bertozzi, and utilizes the new parcels for additional field space. Again, there is a vehicle access on this one from Jaguar Way and from Windsor River Road. And so next steps, I will be available for questions from the board. We will be gathering all the feedback in addition to the feedback gathered from town council, refining these site designs based on that feedback. And then early February, we will be doing a community charrettes. We will have an in-person and a virtual option for community members to participate and help us refine this, give their feedback on the three designs. And then we will continue, we will probably come back to the board and the town council in the spring before we refine and finalize the report. And with that, that completes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Director Limon. What I'd like to do is, if there's questions about Olivia's presentation, we'll have the board ask those. We won't really deliberate yet. Take any public comment there may be, and then deliberate. And if you don't mind standing up there, you'll probably be being referred to and back and forth to your slides. So
that's fine.
Any board members have questions for Olivia about her presentation? Again, not really to deliberate on our preferences. If there's something you'd like her to expand upon.
Just one, if you go back one or two pictures, I'm seeing, is that a soccer field?
In the new properties?
Right there.
Potentially, yeah. So again, we're talking high level. None of this is to scale. But
Okay.
the intention that it would replace the fields that would be lost with the development going in the field space that we have now.
Okay, the reason why I asked, because I saw it a couple times, but that area, this whole park area is very limited space, and I'm wondering why a soccer field is being put there when we already have a soccer complex and we have a lot of, in other words, I don't know why we're taking such a big area and dedicating it to one soccer field when there could be other, I think there are much, I don't remember seeing a need in everybody's aspirations for this area. I don't remember a soccer field being even in the list. So I was just curious as to why that, I noticed a big chunk there and in another picture was a big chunk and a big chunk. I'm just curious.
There was some conversation around an all-weather turf field that was accessible to the public. And so there was some discussion at council that field, it would be flexible to do baseball or soccer and that it would be turf and lighted.
So to follow up, again, when I went and started looking around the town, we have a ton of baseball fields for the amount of baseball that happens. Anyhow, I'm just trying to keep it very high level right now, but I think we already have a lot of baseball and we have a lot of soccer all over our town. I don't know that we need to have a baseball or another baseball or a soccer field in this particular location. Now, if we are going to do that and it's going to be all weather, is it possible to do something where it can double also as a parking area? I know that they have I've seen them done where they have fields that people play on, but they also, the substrate underneath them have drainage such that people can park on them as well. Because parking is something that's very needed and not an ample amount of for a lot of the different activities that are coming up. So it just such a large area for such a constrained area that we have to work with. It seems to be a very large chunk out of what we're playing with.
Okay. Any other board comments or excuse me, questions for Olivia before we go to public
Yeah,
comment?
actually, I want to follow up with that because I feel like that's a really good point. But Olivia, where that red star is, that parking space that's right next to it, do we have an idea of how many cars that would fit?
We don't have, no, I don't have numbers yet.
Oh, okay. I was just curious, like, like if we look at this, I see that there's, I think on this one, there's 2 parking areas. So I was just wondering if we had like a high level idea of, what would be the maximum capacity of parking?
We're not to that level of
Okay.
detail yet. I will tell you the loop up to the top is what's existing.
Okay. Yeah, I just feel it's a really good point just because it has all of those amenities. But then the thing is like, where would people park? So I think that's a good point.
I have a question, which is, would there be a possibility that there would be a parking garage rather than a flat parking? Or is flat parking the only consideration?
That's an interesting question. Parking garage has not come up in any of our conversation, but I can definitely put it on the list for consideration.
If there's no other questions, any public comment questions on this presentation by our Parks and Recreation Director? Okay, seeing none, I don't know what level of deliberation or if you're looking for a sort of a straw poll preference on one of the 3 alternatives, to guide our deliberations a little bit, what are you looking for? Because we may get this chew on it a little bit and perhaps chew on it some more at our January meeting, I think.
I think what we would love to hear is not necessarily a straw poll on one design or the other, but we would love feedback. I mean, each of these components are interchangeable. So I'm hearing parking as a strong consideration and a need. I'd love to hear feedback on building locations. Again, we're high level box moving at this point. So that's why we don't have parking numbers or that type of thing. So, what other needs within the park? This plan has a passive recreation event space with a community garden. Other designs have a natural play area. This one has 3 ball fields. This one actually adds a ball field. The others keep it neutral. So that's the type of feedback we would love. It does not need to be in any specific order or package.
Jackson, do you have any thoughts? You'd like to sort of start our deliberations?
I guess the main concerns that I a lot of the elements that I see are stuff that I'd like to keep in as they currently exist. I mean, parking obviously is the biggest thing because this could theoretically become a very big thing. I know it's very hard to predict how many people you have day to day, but making sure that we're able to, accommodate people on the busiest Saturdays or like Labor Day weekend and stuff when it gets really busy. I don't want to be like, oh, you should definitely go with this choice off the bat, because I know that there's a lot of things to consider. I would say that, yeah, pushing the gym and the aquatic center probably away from those houses seems to be probably a better choice, just because I know having very active, loud things directly next to residential neighborhoods that used to be entirely closed off could be pretty unpopular. Other than that, I'm just excited to see how it keeps developing, because right now it looks really good to me.
Thank you.
Okay. This particular one, I guess it's the creek engagement, that I don't like it at all. Actually, I would invert it. And I'm kind of going back to a lot of people may not know, my company, we designed the aquatic center back in the 2008 deal. And so I'm still going back to a lot of the input that people gave us back then. Anybody that's gone to any one of our football games this year, pretty much any year, however many, to Malina's question, however many cars that parked in that area, if it was 300 or 200, it was probably about only 60% of what was probably wanted, because people were parking all the way out and on Windsor River Road, walking in. So we can never have too much parking. The fact that they have the stadium right there, the thoughts were always, everybody always liked having that area that's kind of that area that people park in now, unless it gets really wet. And even then, stay a parking area. The aquatic center, where you kind of have the pool aquatic center in that area, that was kind of where a lot of people liked that. But I'm going to go more over to the area where the soccer field is right now. It's been for 20 plus years, where many, many people have always wanted and had their eyeball, including myself, on this area right there. This the active edges design is probably the closest to what I think a lot of people have been kind of thinking how things would develop. With the rec center, gymnasium, I'm going to call it the Jaguar Center, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. But the purpose of it, the further that we take that rec center, the whole idea was with the rec center in the town, when we've talked, is that for the town's purposes, the townsfolk could enter the Kaiser Park area and use the facility from that parking area and that drop off, so to speak. And the school would use it from the school side. And so you have that common facility that's utilized by our families, but in different ways and having different direction paths. The further any of that building is away from the school site, so anybody that's going to use it from the town, they pretty much have to drive to it anyway, except for the local homes that are right there. So them coming in from the Kaiser Park side of that gives all kinds of good circulation, gives good access to that side of the building if we're partitioning it during different parts of the day. Whereas the school side, they can use it and access it from the school side, and it's close to where the kids are already. the parking there with the big, where the two gyms are, that's how that's been envisioned and discussed many, many times over many years with a lot of different people of what would go there and fit in that location. And so when I see the parking lot there where it looks like that's where the school site stuff, I'm just thinking like, man, I just didn't envision that parking being there, but more of that whole recreation center. If you look at the size of the one that's down in Rona Park, it doesn't, it fits differently, but in that general area, the pool and aquatic center, so this is just me. My vision and envision a lot of other people's is where that rec center, aquatic center is and that parking, that area is where that big rec center is. And that area is something to that level there. Where that soccer field is that I don't think we need, that's where a corner more of the aquatic center would be. And then where the parking that is right now would be that parking for the aquatic center, but also parking for the stadium and football games and soccer and the other events that we have. And then also there'd be additional parking where that rec center is, that area that would also supplement where the high school parking lot is right now. So we'd have 3 big chunks of parking to fit everybody in there. I don't see, I'm trying to use the way, I would be really hard pressed to be convinced to utilize any space there for a soccer field. Not when we have so many other places for soccer that are already available to our town and our kids. And I don't see a soccer field in the mix there, especially when there's other property around our town that if we need more soccer fields, it can be utilized. I have grandkids now. I've been to many baseball games now. And, with the declining enrollment in our schools, that means we also have declining enrollment in our town's youth. So I think we need to make sure that we're making sure our facilities are such that, anyhow, I don't see a soccer field in this design at all going forward. I would probably not be very supportive of something that had a soccer field in there. I just don't see the need for it. And I haven't seen any public outpouring for more soccer. And again, I'm not anti-soccer. I mean, it's a great game and my kids play it and what have you. And I think Bill coached it and what have you. But I just don't, in this limited area that we have that we can make such jewels, I just don't see that soccer field as being part of that mix.
Okay, thanks. Paul, do you have comments or questions that you'd like to get?
I have some comments as well.
Okay, just a second, we'll get to you.
Well, I agree that parking is got to be the issue because anybody who's been to any events at Kaiser Park, parking is a problem. So any design that addresses that issue, I'd be fine with. Whether you have the pool and rec center on that side or whether it's on the other side, I'm with the other board members who have expressed concern about parking, and I think there needs to be more. That doesn't look, that amount of space there does not look like it'll hold a tremendous amount of cars, just eyeballing the amount of space there.
Okay. Stephanie?
I like that there's a dog park on all of the options. When I ran for a different position, a lot of feedback that I got from dog owners in our community is that they really wanted a dog park. So I know that is definitely a need among people who have dogs or a want. So I like that that's included in all of the options. I think a lot has been said about parking, so I don't need to touch on that. Let's see. I don't think I have any more comments for now. I think there's a lot of good ideas here, and I like the different options, kind of starting to think about the different flow. One thing I would bring up is just, the high school is adjacent through Jaguar Way, and just keeping in mind pedestrian access points and what really makes sense flow-wise for students to potentially enter in and utilize those facilities as well.
So I've had some comments. So first of all, I want to say, Olivia, what a wonderful job you've done with community outreach. It's really impressive. And the second thing is that I was part of the process for the community planning for Bayer Farm in Santa Rosa. And many of the features that you have here on these maps really stand out to me because I've seen what has worked well over there. So for example, I love the fact that in the activated edges map, you have the outdoor informal performance space, you have the flex event space, and then you have the Oak Grove with added pathways and picnic opportunities. So all of these features really stand out to me because I feel that one of the elements that is needed in our town is to have more summer recreational activities that are accessible for low-income families. And I feel like that's really, really critical to our town. So I really like many of these features. So I just wanted to mention the importance of having areas that are flexible, that are not necessarily for, sports or, other types of physical activities, but that are just kind of like, places that could be multimodal. So I really like, several of these ideas.
Great. I'll close a bit, Olivia. For the circle at the wall property, I like the outdoor informal performance space and would love the picnic area that shows up on the east side from the other two. I think losing the designation of an outdoor informal performance space would be a mistake. We don't have something like that now. We talked a little bit about it, maybe as an outgrowth connected to some of the building improvements there. But I think that consistently could be part of that circle and how to use the wall space. One of the things is I noticed, at least in concept, the rec center, gymnasium, and pool aquatic center are joined at the hip. They are next to each other. And I think part of our concept, or at least the sense, was that if this area was going to be redeveloped or changed and the Huerta gym went away, that might trigger a need more urgently for a rec center / gymnasium. If that is not as rapidly on the horizon, I know in our stakeholder meetings, we've talked about, well, if we're going to build one or the other, what order do they come in? And I think that's an important conversation to keep going. My sense would be unless and until the Huerta gym, that I think when Eric Heitz went to middle school here, he was using the Huerta gym because this was his middle school. I don't necessarily, I'm not convinced that those need to be simultaneous and together. More importantly, though, I think to the parking, the access ways on this one that you have for activated edges, and there's not parking coming off, vehicles off of the creek engagement. If Jaguar Way is not going to be developed, and that was sort of our sense from the joint meeting, it seems to me if you would go to the central programming, the vehicle, that one. So the vehicle traffic all the way down through the school site, down basically using until that vehicle access in the lower left-hand corner is Jaguar Way becomes a street. And it is a street and you can turn right and go up to Windsor River Road, or Windsor Road, I guess, or whatever that road is on the north side. So going back then to the activated edges, I'm really interested to have us talk about what notions should be part of our public-public partnership to have that piece that's next to the school be adjacent for school purposes. Not which one those should be, but it seems to me a passive use athletic field or whatever, and not having something that is connected to be able to be integrated to the school functions over there on that new several parcels that are on this, I'll call it the southeast corner of Kaiser Park as it's expanded. I'd like to see physical improvements there. I don't know from the sense that I have that a rec center, gymnasium, and pool aquatic center, again, I understand these are boxes. Both those can fit there. I think, we've sort of talked about one or the other, one on one side, one on the left, but those are sort of my concerns. I'd like to have the integration beyond just the boundaries of the park of what it means for that area on the east, in this particular one, for example, that sort of flows seamlessly back and forth with the school uses, those, I'll say Monday through Friday daytime uses. From a parking standpoint, I think if we're going to do that, the school, because now we have a lot of gates and stuff that go in, and if we're going to talk about that, perhaps we reevaluate our gates that close the high school parking lot, right? Which those are relatively new since the different, area has come in onto, I guess, Ginny Drive that comes off of Jaguar Lane. So, but that to me strikes me as a lot of surface parking. Some of it happens to be the schools. Looks like there's going to be some parking or access from the south into the revised version of Kaiser Park. And I think if we're doing a public collaboration, that's something that the school can raise in. I think part of our concern has been for a number of years, let's not have Jaguar Way go all the way down. Initially, it was going to cross, and as you know, over with a bridge and go all the way over to Star Road. But that's thought about as we think about this, that there's, I don't even know how many parking spaces are on the north part of the high school, but hundreds that may be part of the, non 9 to 5, Monday through Friday use of the fields. That's sort of my thoughts, and I really appreciate, again, all the outreach that you've done. Yeah, Rich.
Just to follow up real quick, because you hit on two things there.
Okay.
I was thinking of. One, the pool features, talked about slides, all the different features that can go in the pool. Those are all revenue generators. And those things are, whether people understand that or not, the town needs to understand that is where a lot of the money is going to come from. It's going to help offset the cost of them. The swimming, the lap pools, which was the highest vote getter, those generate the least amount of money. In other words, we've learned that people who like to swim laps also don't like to pay any money to do that. Whereas people who like to go in the water parks and the slides and those kind of things, they will pay the most amount of money for that entertainment for them and for their kids. So we got to make sure that we have enough space for those aspects. I'm seeing people look at me kind of funny. You're looking at me. I build these for a living. That's why I'm familiar with it. So anyhow, and I see all these studies of the revenue of where the money comes from. Anyhow, so separating the aquatic center from the rec center, I think is also important because they're two standalone different projects that could be, which goes to my third point, the funding of these things from a joint general use. When we were listening to our facilities update, the funding of the town creating funding, the school creating funding, and then the state coming in after and matching certain funding is going to help us to be able to maximize all the funds that we generate. And I think that that's a key part of however we do all of this stuff is that, again, these are great pictures and we're all refining what we want to do. But if we don't have any money, we can't do that. So with the school, what we want to do with our bonds, future planning, the town, same thing, and then maximizing getting the state to come in and match funds later, I think is where we can have some of these funds to create these things. And by separating those two, the aquatic center and the rec center, that is where I think we can maximize things as well. So anyhow.
Yeah, and then we'll go back to her. Yeah, go.
Oh, I was actually going to talk about you because I was going to say, Kelly and Rich, you definitely need to talk to each other because Kelly is a swimming connoisseur and you build pools. And I've actually had a conversation with Kelly about pools. So I was hoping you would, because you didn't comment at public comment, I was hoping maybe you would say something.
I know. I wanted to, but I wanted to see what you guys said. And I get what you're talking about. There's a lot of things. All these plans have great ideas. My name is Kelly Gillingham. I'm the Cali PTA president. And I came down here because I'm supporting Olivia and I love the plans that she has. And my background is I have a degree in horticulture. I love plants so I love the natural playground and I think we need a natural playground around that oak tree. Nothing needs to be planted but when it comes to pools, I'm a swimmer. I've been to many pools. I didn't build them. I would love to build one, but I can't afford one. I understand that lap swimming isn't a money generator, but if you build it big enough, the right size, you can have your lap swimming, and then afterwards you can have your big floaties in it and generate. we have all these Airbnbs now. Some of them don't have pools in this area. We can try and generate money from them, and they can access the pool and use it. But I have so many ideas. I think the rec center needs to be next to the pool. You have to have facilities to change out of your swimsuit. I mean, you got it, and you might as well put the rec center right next to the pool because you can use that. And I had an idea of, and I think I told Stephanie, and I'm sure I've told Olivia, but if you have a rec center and a pool next to each other, you can treat it like a gym. I pay $185 a month to swim at a local gym. I would love to bring that money here, not Healdsburg, where I go. I want to bring it here. And I'm sure before COVID, we were all on top of each other at the pool. And I know Airport Club was on top of each other. But if you treat the rec center and the pool together, you can probably generate money. Like, what if you brought in a Pilates class or something? I know the school wants to do rec center and use it, but publicly, you need to sort of work together to figure out how to generate the money to keep all these facilities going. But like for me, I would love to have a Pilates class and pay for it. If it was at the rec center, I would do it.
Kelly,
And
if
I'm
you could
sure a
wrap
lot of
up
people
for
do
your
that.
3 minutes, please.
Okay. So that's just it. There is lap swimming that's a big thing. But if you build it right, you will get the money. You just got to figure that out. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. We're not going to do that again. Thank you.
If I just,
No, I don't think so, Rich. We're not in a debate with the public
It's
here.
not a
I don't
debate.
think so. What I'd like to do is focus our comments back to Olivia.
can I answer a question, Bill?
Sure, Rich.
Okay, so the pool was designed to be a 50-meter by 25-yard. So that way, to your point, we're on the same page. It had the size to do that, and then the building separated from, because you got to understand, the aquatic building and the rec center are two completely different things. To your point about the changing and all that stuff is state regulations. You have to have those things in there already. So I think that a lot of the things that you brought up are already being considered. So.
Thank you. Is there any other feedback you would like from us on any parts of your application? I will just have one closing comment then. We talked about the public partnership, and we appreciate that very much, and the state is involved. I think we need to not forget, and we're going to say it from this dais at least, there is also another sovereign down the road that offered to pay for a pool. I understand there was political issues and a number of things, but I would hope that we not miss the fact that in our neighbors in the Lytton tribe, which are now in trust, did have money, which I understand for a variety of reasons, much of which I may not know, is not on the table. But I would hate for us to not maximize the resources if those are available or could be recultivated for that unique ability, because I don't think either the town or the tribe or the school has money to build that out as it's sitting now. And one of the things we've talked about, I know, is both the school and the town are looking forward towards revenue measures. I can tell you as their lawyer, so is the fire district, probably all overlaid in the next 2, 3, 5 years. So coordinating that is probably valuable too, to get to the ugly piece of this is great. How do we pay for it and in what order? So with that, I thank you so much for coming. We may, when we take a deeper dive as a board and sort out from our side, may well be inviting you back. Do you anticipate after the stakeholders and the charrettes that you will come back on another trip? It looked like it was in your action plan, and come visit with us again.
I do think I will. I think I'll be here probably in the spring once
Okay.
we get the results of the charrettes and start really putting a pencil to paper to get parking spaces and get some of those real details. We are also already starting to cost things out so that is happening on a parallel track, so
Good.
that when we come back with the next design, we can probably start talking about different cost.
Wonderful. Okay, with
Great,
that, thank
thank
you
you.
very, very much for coming to us this morning. Very interesting discussion. Okay. Did we need to take any action on that? I mean, we gave the, okay. That was on as an action item, but we've given our guidance and initial, and board, I do imagine we are going to have further conversations about that as we go forward and get some more detail. 6.2, Early Childhood Education Extended Learning Opportunities Presentation from Jessica Borland, Coordinator of Child Development. Thank you for your patience, Jessica.
Hello, thank you. And thank you for recognizing my committee membership.
You're welcome.
I do have sort of three separate reports in my presentation. I'm wondering if you guys want me to present each one. We'll have a discussion, questions, and then go to the next, or do you guys want me to go all the way through all three and we'll have questions at the end?
The conscience of the board. My thinking is where we're here at 8:20. Let's have you press all the way through. We'll do our best to capture our questions on a piece of paper in front of us, not interrupt you, and we'll circle back with you at the end. Thank you.
Okay, so the first part of my presentation is talk about the California State Preschool Program. So the last time I came in and talked to you guys, I had told you, There I am. Okay. So the first part of my presentation, I was going to talk to you guys about the California State Preschool Program. The last time that I was here, I had told you that we had applied for a grant for the district. And I actually applied for slots both at Maddie and Cali. And I am proud to say that we did get awarded slots for Cali's campus. And so I'm super excited to be in the planning stages for offering 72 CSPP, California State Preschool Program slots. The 72 slots include 42 low-income ones, 12 students with moderate to mild IEPs, disabilities, and 18 EL students. So the 20 slots that cover, or the 30 slots that cover the IEP and the EL students are not income contingent. It's the 42 that are the lower income. And actually the state preschool low income category is just over $100,000 for a family of four to qualify for this program. So it's a pretty substantial low income. Bringing of childcare and preschool to our district is part of our long-term vision. That's part of why Jeremy had hired me on, is to open up a preschool. So this is kind of our starting point. Our award amount was roughly $1 million. And it's also part of the state's UPK plan. I gave you guys a visual about what UPK is, because it's another acronym that the state has thrown at us. And it really encompasses a lot of what our district's already doing. The expanded learning is our before and after school. TK, we rolled out TK for All this year. The state preschool program, is the grant that we got. And I am working with, partly with the County Child Care Planning Council, with private industries and Head Start. So we're aligned with what the state's, kind of hoping that districts do. And here is kind of the planning stages for the grant that we just got. So we are able to access 15% of that grant up front for our planning purposes, and we're in the process of trying to figure out what we want to include in that request. For this year only, I think most of that grant is going to be tied into our current TK and before and after school program planning, and serving those kids in kind of a dual program where it's a California State preschool program combined with either a TK classroom or an after school program, because that's one of the visions of the state, is to overlap those programs and those resources for those students. And like I said, it's part of our district's long-term plan. So here we're starting. And the upfront requests that we're requesting are going to go towards teacher training. Some of the requirements for California State Preschool Program is assessments of the DRDP, which is the desired results. Oftentimes it's used in preschool. There are measures that can also be used in TK and kinder. And some of our TK teachers are going to get trained on that hopefully later this year. Our long-term vision is to serve 3-year-olds in this program. We're hoping by year 2, we'll start it. And by year 3, we'll be able to implement a lot of the slots for our 3-year-olds. And then our long-term vision for the CSPP and our preschool is to have mixed funding. So we'll have private pay families and our state preschool program, being served on the same facility. And then to move on, we're talking about our before and after school program. So we did get a fairly substantial amount of grant for both Callie and Maddie to serve kids in before and after school programs. I think Callie's award was about 1.3 million. And Maddie's was 1.4 million for before and after school programming. And at Callie's campus, we're currently serving 95 students. 45 of them are in morning care. Morning care, we're serving kids first grade, actually TK through 8th grade. But our 1st through 8th grade kids are being referred over to the Boys and Girls Club, who's also serving substantially more students this year than they were last year. And then our after school at Callie is only our TK Kinder students. And that's a 1-to-10 ratio. Boys and Girls Club's not serving any of the TK Kinders. It's only us. And we do have 60 students being served. And I am happy to say that there's no one left on our wait list there. We're serving everybody who's requested a slot for TK Kinder on Callie's campus. And then over at Maddie, we're serving 172 students. 38 of them are receiving morning care, so not quite as many families needed it over there, but it is only a TK through 2nd grade campus. And then we have a very large population after school, which is, when I wrote this, it was 148, and we just added some more students who start in January, so we're up to 158. I still have 2 TK spots opened on that campus, but there's no more students on my TK wait list. So my TK wait list is fully served, no more on the wait list. And then I do have students on my the kindergarten wait list, 1st grade wait list, and 2nd grade wait list, but all of them are under 7 students. So it's a pretty small wait list at this point.
Jessica, can you speak to what was the maximum amount that ECC served at Maddie Washburn in the past?
So coming out of COVID, I think their maximum was 45 students. In the past, I have heard that they served around 100 kids, but with COVID, they were limited a lot more just because of COVID restrictions. But it was about 100 kids, and our plan is to serve more than that. It's just staffing has been really hard. Otherwise, they would have more classrooms over there. Yeah. So here's a little bit about our staffing. Callie does have 5 program IAs, which are our higher level staff. They're all adults. Most of them have some experience in education or child development. And then I have 14 IAs or high schoolers. 6 of them are working 5 days a week. And 8 of them, I guess I didn't finish that slide before I sent it over. 8 of them are... or 9 of them are working part-time. So they an A-day schedule, B-day schedule, or I've got North Bay Met students. I've got a number of more North Bay Met students that are either working on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday. And then Maddie's campus, I have 9 program IAs and 11 high schoolers over there. You can see that more of them are working 5 days a week, and only 5 of them over there are working alternating schedules. And, oops, let me go back. And that's some of our staff, the pictures, some of our staff right there. We got them little turquoise vests to distinguish them from the other aides that are on the campus so everybody can notice that they're well staffed. And here in programming, we try and make sure that there's homework help offered. And kind of our schedule is, and this is fairly new because we just implemented supper, which is a larger meal for all of the kids right when they get out of school. So they go to supper, which is going through the food service line and getting like a kind of a large, robust snack type thing. And then after supper, they go into their cohort groups. They do either a project if they're in like TK Kinder, or they do homework help if they're in first or second. And we always incorporate a literacy activity. Sometimes that's group reading, sometimes it's individual reading, sometimes the kids want to do some journaling, but we always incorporate a little bit of a literacy. And then we go into like a art or science type project that was planned by our site coordinators. And then we go into a snack, and then after snack, everybody has some kind of outside time. So families seem to be pretty happy with that current schedule. They get 2 food meals and a little bit of homework help. We also, as part of our programming, we're offering full weeks of out of school care. For this year, it's for winter and spring breaks, and then 7 weeks of summer. And winter break, we're doing the first week of winter break, and then all of spring break. Next year, I know that there's a conversation of including more teacher work days, emergency days, and possibly those 3 days before Thanksgiving. So I think that the families seem to really want a little bit more additional care. So hopefully next year we'll offer a little bit more. And then the only vendors so far that we're working with is Move Over Mozart. And we've been talking back and forth about having them come on the campus and offer something to the students, maybe 1 or 2 days a week. Our hope is we were originally hoping to start in January. Now I think we're probably going to be pushing it back to the beginning of February, beginning to middle of February, because I'm still surveying families on what they need and trying to figure out the logistics of having them come on campus. And here's just some pictures of the kids. I did reach out to families and see if they wanted to share any of their experiences with you guys. So if you don't mind, can I read a couple of the parents' responses? Okay. So one parent who's got a TKer over at Maddie said, nothing short of amazing. Our son has a great time with the kids and the teachers in the program. We can't say thank you enough. We appreciate always hearing how great of a time he's having. First grader at Maddie, amazing. If it wasn't for the WELL program, my husband and I wouldn't be able to work our 9 to 5s. We're so grateful for this program, allowing us to work full time and not have to worry about our son's after school care. Thank you for everything you guys are doing. We are so grateful for this program and all it has allowed for our family. And I'll just read one more, which is a TKer over at Cali. My son is in TK, and I really appreciate how my son is well taken care of and entertained while he's there. I appreciate that he's in a safe, gated area, and how many staff there are to supervise the kids. I'm always informed at pickup if my son is hurt or anything important comes up. I feel like he's safe when he's there. He never loses any of his belongings between transitions, and I really appreciate that. And there's a few more that I was going to share with you guys, but I don't necessarily need to read all of them now. And then I will move on to, here, I have one more set of pictures. So this is our Maddie campus and some of the kids that are playing at Maddie. And then here's some pictures of our Cali campus and some of the stuff they did. I'm really impressed with my site coordinators. They put together some really great projects for the kids and are really thoughtful on making sure that they rotate in their activities. The Cali's campus, we share classrooms with teachers, so all of the staff have like rolling carts, and so we pack their rolling carts with activities and change out things in there and stuff like that, so the kids have a variety of stuff to do in the classroom. Okay, so on to our P3CC collaboration, kind of another acronym for you guys to hear. So one of the things that we started last year was a pilot program through California Ed Partners, where they are getting together districts to learn more about how we can create coherence for math and literacy. Our pilot is in literacy, and we're in year 2 of working with Ed Partners. They did give us a $10,000 stipend to help with some of the fees and resources that teachers might need. It is a really comprehensive partnership and program. We do like monthly meetings and work on, like how we're going to bring that literacy experiences into the classrooms and into our school. There's 3 convenings per year that are in person where they provide awesome speakers. We're like away from everything. We're planning for the district. It's a great time for us to all, collaborate and make plans for our district. We just went to LA in, I think it was in September, and it was just great. It was great venue that they picked. They treated us like princesses. It was absolutely great. And then part of being on the leadership team that is involved in the team meetings and the convenings is the staff brings it into their grade level meetings and into their schools and, tries to mentor others on, what we're doing and the work that we're doing. And on the right hand side, it's on my next slide too, but on the right hand side, it's the Lit 6. And the as far as the literacy components, we're really going off of bringing all of these components into the classroom. So we want to see read alouds and shared reading and writing and language at preschool through 3rd grade. And so the work that the team is doing is helping bring all of this into the grade levels without overwhelming people and bringing in, making people feel like they're doing more work. Some of the great aspects of the team is that it's really brought a lot of collaboration between Callie and Maddie, especially our TK teams. We implemented TK really fast paced, and the TK teams have really embraced this Lit 6 philosophies and their collaboration in a lot of ways. But the TK team over there is definitely a model on how we can have collaboration district wide. So that's been really impressive and great to see. And our commitment for this year, I think we're hoping to grow about, I think it was 13 to 15% in a bunch of different areas. And the one thing that we're making sure that we see in every classroom and bringing into every classroom is the shared reading experience of the Lit 6. With hopes to make sure we see the rest of it throughout the next couple of years. So that's just one of the things that we're working on. And this is the 2 books that we were working on. This is Literacy we read it as a group last year, and Literacy Walks is a really great resource to see, like, it kind of gives you an outline of when you walk into a classroom. If you see these different components, you can see the Lit 6 in the classroom. So it's really great for admin to see, for teachers to know, what are we looking for? So that's the book that we're kind of working through this year. And I'm really excited that we're able to be part of this pilot program, because this is another thing that the California Department of Ed is really pushing is P3 coherence. And we are in the forefront of this too. Okay, questions?
Wow, thank you.
Sorry.
I just have a comment. It seems that the P3 pilot program is an expansion of your responsibilities beyond sort of the TK and the UPK, that overlay, is that for all the classroom teachers at the pre-kindergarten to 3rd grade level? Is that, or is it targeted at particular student abilities?
I am working with TK through 3rd grade teachers to
Okay.
bring this into
Across the board?
Across the board in the entire district.
Wow.
And I think the thought was that we would be operating a preschool, and so that's kind of how it fell into my.
Good.
Yeah.
No, that's an interesting add-on that I don't think we thought about when we started thinking about this last summer. So again, much like Olivia, board questions about the 3 different components of Jessica's presentation. We'll go public comment. And again, are you looking for, I know we're lumping things together, are you looking for an action?
Nope.
One of the things as you're getting comments both from the board and questions and the public, don't hesitate while you got the bully pulpit before you sit back down to say, if you need something, let us know what that is. Right? If we need to invest more or we need to invest differently, I'd be interested to hear that because we don't get to see you on a regular basis. So board members, any questions?
Well,
Yes, Paul.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on the balanced literacy. I think this is long overdue. I go way back. I taught something was called the 4 blocks. And there's 6 here. We only had 4. We had writing, we had word work, we had, guided reading, and then independent reading. And the balancing those 4 is critical for kids because kids learn in different ways. And that's why you have to hit all of those components. I know you said you were targeting shared reading, but that's just one component. You really need to have all those components and need to have the children have access to those components in order to promote literacy. And it was thrown out when we had to go to all these canned programs with what would we have? We had Open Court or whatever these publishers came up with. But this, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, this is not a particular publisher that you're using. It's more of an approach.
Mhm.
I commend you on that because I think this is the direction that we need to go.
Thank you, Paul.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So first of all, I want to say, I don't know how y'all do it with all these acronyms. There's like PP3 and PP something else. I don't know. But my only question for you is, by the way, wonderful information. My only question is this program only for English literacy?
No, it's not. We're working on the same concepts at Cali. So I don't know if you guys have heard about GLAD. They're working with GLAD. There's a lot of the concepts in GLAD that are
What
that
is GLAD?
align- What is GLAD, Sharon?
You can say it in Spanish.
No, it's an English guided language acquisition and development. It's a program that infuses literacy development into all subject matters. K-12 or TK-12.
So a lot of the philosophies in GLAD very much align with the Balanced Literacy Lit 6. And so they're alongside us. And I think they're even a little bit ahead of us because of the GLAD work that they're doing.
Great. I think one of these days, Jeremy, you're going to have to come up with some kind of like directory with all the acronyms.
A spreadsheet.
I've so lost track.
But Paul shared, that would be a big book. Yeah. But we'd have to have the old acronyms too. Any other, yes, Rich?
Yeah, speaking of, Jeremy, you could put yourself on the map. At the state school board stuff, you could have like, instead of like a national spelling bee, you could have an acronym contest and whoever they just ask. And I don't think anybody can hit them because actually they create and redevelop new ones before they even learn the old ones. So don't even try. I quit learning now. I just ask.
Or even better, use AI technology to.
Any comments from Jackson or Stephanie? Questions? No.
I just have a question, and it relates to, I kind of want to tie it into budget because first of all, you're doing a great job. Like, I'm so impressed and so excited because I know how central this is to the vision of our district. But I'm looking at the grant amounts, and I was just wondering kind of like, has that been factored into the budget? How does that impact what we were planning? Like, that seems like significant sums of money. So if you could speak to that, or if Jeremy could speak to that, maybe a little combination. that would
Or
be
are we going to
awesome.
cover that when we get to the intro?
Or can we cover it? Or we can
Cover it
wait.
now, yeah.
Oh, no?
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's cover it now.
Okay, yeah, no, there's it is included in the budget. It's actually part of the reasons why you see such a big swing from adopted to first interim is because some of these programs, like for instance, Justice Program, we decided not to budget it adopted, even though we knew that money was coming, because that money ultimately had to be spent for salaries, for benefits, for staff, as well as books and supplies and capital outlay. It was a restricted program. And so because that money had to be used in that category, we decided to do it at first interim once you're thing. So in this budget, it's included. And I do have a slide on it, so we will.
And when we do that, I'd be interested, and you may know, these are great infusions of money, great pilot programs. We get it up and running. At what point do we see the state level funding of it falling off, or what our contingent, we don't have to answer it now, but our contingency plans as we get things up and rolling that, our friends out of Sacramento say, that's great. We're going to wean you off your budget for the next 3 years and you're going to have to own it yourself. So maybe we could talk about that either in the first interim or in the broader spectrum as we plan for those things. Because I certainly think this pre-K initiative we have in growing our own ADA is something we need to have as a contingency to maintain the investment in, even if the outside infusion of money. And I know we're doing some of these things out of our own budget now, and we anticipate the state's going to come in with more money, but just to keep that out, because I was seeing, 7-figure dollars, and you said, there's 1.3 at Cali and there's this. In my mind, I'm thinking we're at $4+ million here. What do we do in 2 years when, that's not being entirely paid for by new money from the state or feds?
I can say that both the Extended Learning Opportunities Program, which is helping pay for our before and after school care, and the CSPP are part of Ed Code. They are not money that would be removed or taken away unless Ed Code changes and law changes.
Good.
I can also say that we have a mixed income program, and I think that I've brought in parent fees have come in at about $150,000 at this point.
Okay. Good.
So that's, it's a lot less than the million, but it is helping.
And I think, frankly, I think as the board in priority and following the superintendent's, in one of his important initiatives, we're investing now, and I don't mean this pejoratively at all. It's a loss leader. We're investing our general fund money up front before the state catches up with yet another one of our initiatives. So even if it means we're investing general fund money, I just think we need to have our eyes wide open and know as this is shifting if we need to make those adjustments. Before we go to public comment, if any, we had early on said we are going to offer this to staff members. Do you know how many Windsor staff have of those? I'm thinking of the Cali number and 140, the 250 kids or whatever the number is. How many of those are Windsor staff members?
About 30.
Okay. If you would, when you come, just sort of always mention that to us, just so, hey, we're growing that, or maybe that's the optimal number or something like that, because that's about 15%. Well, to 500 employees, that's 15% of that. Any comments from the public on this particular item in the report by Jessica? Okay, any last minute thoughts or questions? Oh, there goes the papers. It must be time to be done.
Can I make a comment?
Sure, absolutely.
I just
Thank you.
wanted to recognize the amazing work that Jessica's doing. She has brought this program up from the ground and works tirelessly. I don't think she's taken any days off. I think she works 24 hours a day. She knows her stuff back and forward, and she's a leader in the community, and we're one of the first districts to do this. So people are coming to her for advice. She's just very impressive and doing an amazing job. So thank you.
And I tell you, I will echo that, because while I was at the Board of Supervisors meeting Thursday, I had two people come up to me and say, "You're on the Windsor School Board? Do you know Jessica?" I said, "I've known Jessica before her youngest kid was born." And that echo, and even more than that, because what is happening is, amongst the other really cool, innovative things that we're doing in Windsor, this is yet another example of how people are saying, how are we managing to do those things up there? And I think it's just the culture to say, sure, let's try that. Let's work on this and be on it. So thank you for being part of that. And again, congratulations on that regional appointment and your leadership in that program too.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on then to item 6.3. This, I think, does require a vote. Consideration of approval of the 2022-2023 first interim financial report from CBO Austin M. Thank you, sir. And we've gotten it in dribs and drabs and increments, so
Can I
Go
ask
ahead.
a question?
yes.
President. We have a pretty significant presentation at 6.5. Would you guys want to, I just want to ask a question before, push that to a following meeting? Because I think there's some significant conversation that probably needs to take place.
Let me get, before we get to that, is there anything in there that we need to act on in
No.
this calendar year?
No.
Will it be something that we need to make adjustments or take action financially, policy, staffing? Then thank you for raising that. I would certainly suggest to the board that we consider moving 6.5 to our January meeting.
Yeah, I would just say if there's somebody here in the public that wanted to
And
make.
do we have anybody here who has waited for the 1015 multi-tiered system of support presentation?
Yeah, other than that, yeah, let's push it off. Okay.
And I printed that off in color. The colors were very, very soft. Thank you for that. So what we will do is if I could have a friendly motion from the board, we will adjust our agenda because we do have 6.6 on the asphalt ad, if you don't forget that. That if I could have a motion in a second, we will vote and just push 6.5 to amend our agenda to push that to our January meeting.
I'll move to
Thank
push
you.
6.5 to January when we will be awaiting your presentation over the holidays.
I'll second.
Okay, first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for raising that. We can come up with something else for you, because we can talk about the dashboard if you'd like before we leave. Okay, go ahead, Austin.
All right, first interim. Is this on? No. Are you sure it's not on? There
No.
it is. I just wasn't close enough. All right. First interim report for 22-23. So some legislation updates. So what's kind of happening since the adopted budget, which was back in June, and we're building it. Jeremy and I are going through it together in May. So we're looking at a full 6 to 7 months later. So we had a slight increase to the cost of living adjustment. And if you guys remember acting on that, it was an additional increase to staff. That was something we acted on at the June board meeting. So then passage of Prop 28, that starts in the 23-24 school year. I do want to be honest and say that that is not included in this multi-year projection. The reason for that is I didn't want to include it until we had a plan. It was actually similar to the ELOP. It's going to fall into restricted. It can only be used for certain things. Therefore, I wanted to exclude the revenues because it would look a little off with a bunch of revenues without the actual expenditures. So we're working on those plans now, and that will be included hopefully by second interim once we have the plan for Prop 28 finalized. We also had $3.5 billion from California come in the arts, music, and instructional materials block grant. That was a one-time out of the state surplus this year. And then we had, as Jessica mentioned, there was $4 billion that the state gave us in terms of expanded learning opportunities program, and that is ongoing. And then $637 million for home to school transportation that you guys will be receiving a plan on in the coming 3 to 4 months. $4.2 billion for school facilities program. This is one-time non-general fund. What's interesting about that one is the state still has the power to take some of that away, but they are churning out payments. So they fully paid down the outstanding bond projects. We are on that list. They haven't gotten to us yet. I haven't gotten my check, but I check in monthly on that. So, so those are the updates that have happened since May. So going to the main takeaways from adopted budget. One, additional costs in CPI. We projected, if you guys had talked about, it was something we never talk about in school business, was the cost, the consumer price index, the cost of things going up. But this year we had to talk about it, and it's continuing to rise even as we speak. But they do show in the out years, projections are showing that it's going back down to that 2-3% that we are more accustomed to. And then, as Jessica had mentioned, additional expanded learning opportunities program expenses and revenues. So we got them both on both ends. But we also have an additional 50 students from adopted budget in enrollment. So that's always good news. It was enough to where our projections were still accurate, but they were, slightly on the underside. So diving in, not quite yet. We're still going over assumptions. So these are the assumptions. The COLAs, these are what the state had basically adopted for 22-23. For 23-24, though, they're the current from the most recent governor's budget, and same with 24-25. Enrollment projections, as you guys know, are the driving force of the budget. So this year we had 4,631 students at CBEDS. And then we're showing that slow decrease kind of in the out years that we normally are used to seeing. And then 88% of 94%. That's what the district has historically hovered around. Last year it was 93%. A lot of that was because of COVID, in my opinion. So we projected it at 94%. And again, you can see consumer price index kind of falling in those out years. It's currently roughly around 7 to 8% was the most recent one, but they had projected for the fiscal year of schools from July to June of 5.75. So going into the multi-year combined, you can see in the current year that big influx of that one-time revenue that we talked about in the arts, music, and instructional materials block grant, as well as the learning recovery block grant. And then it kind of falls off in the out years. And then you look at expenditures, it kind of mirrors that, right? Because when we get restricted programs that are one-time, you have to spend the money on those grants, right? And then it slowly kind of falls in the out years as we don't receive as much revenue. So you see the excess this year of 2.3 million, and then kind of what it does to the fund balance. So going to our fund balance, the way that you read this, I've always worked on this slide because I find it a little tough to read. The bottom numbers are kind of the ending totals, and then the three right above it are the what makes it up, right? So we have our reserve for economic uncertainty at 5%. That is a board-approved 5%. We have assigned or restricted amount, meaning they can only be used for certain things or they're already kind of put away for certain items. And then we have unassigned, which is kind of the amount that's left over for stability. So you can kind of see the totals. I'll give you guys a minute to look at it. So looking at Cali, Cali has kind of similar to Windsor in the fact that it has a higher this year budget, mainly because they did receive some of those restricted funds and then falls next year. But you see Cali have a big uptick in 24-25. The reason for that is because Cali has is an elementary school. And so a lot of the governor's initiatives for TK and things like that, as those students start to age in and we get funding for all of the TK students, you see a quicker uptick in Cali. So that's the reason for that. And then you see expenditures for Cali stay pretty similar. A lot of that is because their staffing levels are usually pretty standard in terms of the amount of grades they have on campus. There's just not enough really room for it to grow and keep going. So yeah, looking at their ending fund balance though, Cali's fund balance has to be either restricted or assigned. So you kind of see that Cali is operating at a positive for the next 3 years. All right, so future expectations. State revenues right now are 5.8 billion below estimates. This kind of ties into the bottom bullet point in terms of the state's rainy day fund is expected to contribute over the next 3 years. So UCLA's economics kind of believe that the state's economy is going to slow or have a recession, and they're split on that. So 54% believe that there will be one, 46% believe that they will not be. Usually they all agree. Usually they're a majority one way or a majority not the other way. And for now, there's not a worry in terms of school business. The reason why is because the state's rainy day fund is plush with money. And so we know for this year or for next year, it has enough to sustain it as long as there's not a serious crash. But it is something to watch out for and kind of know that one-time monies may not be coming as fruitful in the future as they did this year. So with that being said, I feel like I absolutely flew through this budget and probably should have gone slower. But is there any questions from the board?
Who wants to start? I only had one, and then I'll go to Rich because you have questions. And then we could ask questions. You know what we'll do? Maybe we'll see if there's any public comment, and then we can come back to us, and we won't have to go back and forth. Because again, we do read it, and thank you very much. I really always appreciate the slides, so the narrative to help give it context.
Yes, sir.
Any public comment from anybody out there? Yes, ma'am. Could you please come to the podium? Thank you.
You're going to have to go back to the slide about unassigned.
Which one?
The one that has it unassigned on it. I just had a question about.
I think the one,
That one. Yes.
Combined one.
You have, you. Kind of raced through
I
what
think
you meant
the,
by
the
unassigned.
sound tech is going to help you there for a second.
You raced through what you meant by unassigned.
Yeah, please, yeah.
Yeah, so unassigned is, so like for instance, restricted, right? So for high school, you have CTE, right? So CTE can only be used on certain dollars. So if, let's say CTE has 400,000 that's given to them and they only use 300,000, well, 100,000 is going to fall to the fund balance and be left over. So it's going to fall into restricted because you can't use that for just anything. But for unassigned, it can be used for just anything. So unassigned is kind of your unrestricted balance in terms of what can be used for just about anything.
And what is it for?
In terms of the 1.9 million, it's for just stability within the budget. There's unforeseen circumstances within the state's economy right now for sure. So,
And can you distinguish that from economic uncertainty?
I mean, economic uncertainty, yeah. So economic uncertainty, if you have 3 million, just because you have 3 million kind of in your fund balance doesn't mean that you have that in cash. So like, I'll give you an example. The month of November, last month, we fell down to roughly 4 million in cash. That's because the state doesn't give us all the money up front and then we kind of pay it down. So for a district like us that really has a high percentage of property taxes, we get most of our funding coming in December. And so keeping that higher fund balance kind of allows us to not have to take out a loan during different times of the year and pay down that interest as well. So does that kind of help answer that?
It doesn't answer my question, but it gives me the information I wanted. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other public comment? Okay, you can certainly take questions or comments from the board as we have them, and go ahead and sit there. Austin, any comments from the board? Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Austin, for putting all this together. The thing that I kind of want to take a half a step back memory lane. I don't want to talk about this very long, but I remember when Stephen and I first ran for the board 4 years ago, the budget was, we were going in a terrible direction. Finances were really not doing great. And the one thing that saved our district way back then was our predecessors on the board. They had saved up a chunk of money. I don't remember exactly, Bill, you have better memory, but there was a sizable savings. And I know there was some contention about what should be happening with that money. And what we didn't know was after that, then we had a whole bunch of other problems and we had to eat into that money that the previous board had earmarked and saved away, in addition to the 5% of uncertainty. The reason I bring that up is because there could be some temptations to say, hey, we're doing great and we're flush right now. Right now, I just got a report because of my business that from one of our clients, 6,000 apartments that they had on the books in the state of California, up and down, state of California, that they had invested, I think, $13 million in just studies and the planning of those 6,000 apartments. They walked away from them yesterday. They pulled the plug. They let all the money go away, and they said that they don't expect that they will pick those projects back up or that number of projects for probably 5 to 7 years because of the way they anticipate things are going. This is a very large company, and they mentioned that 3 other companies that are of their size are doing the same thing. I've heard from 2 other of our people that we do work for that they are also walking. I want to let you guys know, I do believe that we are going to have some financial challenges in our state that right now people aren't even talking about. I mean, this is literally, so just to give you an example of how fast this is happening, this company spent that money 2 months ago. They walked away from it yesterday. So in 2 months, they invested money and then they walked away from the projects because of how they see things are happening in our state. We need to be very careful of what we do going forward. I know that the state has some rainy day money coming up and all that stuff. I just want to make sure that we are as diligent as the boards were 2-3 cycles ago that had, I don't want to say the rainy day fund, but they had a little extra money that turned out that we ended up needing it. And so while, I may not have agreed with everything that the previous boards did and the way they did some of the things, but the one thing that I've been consistent about was how I was thankful that they managed the funds in the way that they did. So that way we were able to get through the troubled times that we had coming. And I hope that we are just as prudent as the previous boards in that regard. Again, that said, I want to reward our partners as to the maximum that we can, and yet at the same time, make sure that we have some seed corn for down the road. So, and that's pretty much my comment, is that when we're flush like this, it's very easy to think it's going to continue that way, and everything cycles up and down. And I think we better be more prepared for a down cycle than not.
Thank you, Rich. Any other comments from the board? Yeah, go ahead, Jackson Caligari.
So I don't know too much about money, but that unassigned budget in 24-25 is small, and therefore I'm scared of it. It's 0.5% of the total budget of that year, and I know the other ones are a lot bigger than that. Is there a particular reason to be worried about that, or is that something you're not particularly worried about?
Yeah, no, I'm worried about it. Kind of to Susanna's point, you have the reserve for economic uncertainty at 5% to where, but it's never anything you want to rely on. So yeah, 296, 551, that does concern me. We do have discretion to possibly move money around in case we got into serious trouble, but never would we ever want to get there. Jackson, that's a valid point.
Yeah.
Jackson, to your point, the School Services of California, it's an education financial consultant, essentially. What their recommendation is 17% reserve for a school district because of the reasons you just described. So we're talking more like 5.5%, right? Now, we can't always do that. There's needs of a school district, but that's the recommendation to be safe and make sure you can weather the storms that Rich is talking about.
Yeah, the minimum for us to have a qualified budget is 3%. We have to have 3, or else we get in trouble with SCO in the state. Another way to look at that is we are spending more money than we are bringing in. These are deficit budgets, even though we're getting, as we've talked on a couple of program presentations, millions and millions of dollars of one-time infusions of money. What that means is we're writing checks out of our checkbook that at least right now, we're prudently saying, yeah, that's a good thing to do while there's some extra money there, but we have to watch it very carefully. I only wanted to make one comment, and then I think we need to take a motion to approve the first interim. Okay. That is, I notice still, and I know the district office and our special ed providers are looking at it, but when I looked at the general fund contributions, we still have, again, there is restricted funds and then the unrestricted, the flexible monies. 23.9% of our general fund is in contributions that I understand are largely going to backfill special education mandates that are not funded by the state or federal government. I think that's well more than half of our special education funding we do locally. I know we're looking at it, but every time I see that, that's one of the first places I go in the middle of the general fund unrestricted to say, are we still, and I don't know what the right number is. I've always thought, let's try to target something less than 20%. But what I'd like to know as we're doing some of these initiatives, maybe as we get a report towards the end of the year, what's the cost benefit? We take X, Y, and Z step. Does that save us money? Is it, yeah, if we could just look at that, because, and also, if we could, I'd also like to get a comparison when that report comes in. How do we compare with 10 or 15 other districts in and around our comparator districts that we usually use in other places? You know, where I know we have the NCC and some other initiatives, and we have quite robust and admirable programs, and people come to our district because of that. But I'd really like to look at that, because that, not exactly to what as Pfeffer was talking about, but it's been a consistent, 20 to 22 to 24% of our general fund goes to support students who need support, right? It's not my point, but I don't know if that's the right number. It just seems like it's a big number and consistently it's been a big number.
It's large.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions, or if not, we can take a motion to approve our first interim financial report.
I just had
Yes,
one
sir.
quick one, because it came up a couple years ago, so I'm going to ask Austin and Jeremy together. When we do run out of, if we don't have, let's say a lot of people don't pay their property taxes, and then, because they don't have to, they can push it off a while. And so if the state doesn't get the money and they don't pay, it came up a couple years back where we were concerned. The state was telling us, hey, if we don't have the money to pay you, you guys are going to have to arrange a certain way to get the cash. Do we have to borrow that from a bank, or where? I don't remember exactly what that was. And then do we have to pay interest on that to a borrower? Do you recall that? Can you refresh our memory?
There's a great term of art for that. I can't remember what it's called.
I know, that's why I
Called a
was.
trans,
Huh?
tax revenue anticipation note.
Right.
So, yeah, you can apply to the state to get, so like if that were to happen, like people were to, I don't want to call it deferring on their property tax, but that's essentially what's happening. You can apply for a trans through the state of California, through the state treasury, and get a no interest, basically the money up front, and then the property tax will then go to the state. You can do a little triangle.
You were talking about deferments though, right, Rich? The
I think
state was
it's
saying
more
they were
the
going to
deferment.
defer
That's what I was
payments, and
thinking,
then if we didn't have enough money in our bond funds and our general fund, whatever it may be, then we would have to do a trans or borrow from somewhere else. That's what you were talking about. So,
Right.
Yeah.
That's
What was your question with that?
Well, what it was because I'm trying to remember the exact circumstance of why we were even having to be made aware of that.
The state they didn't think they were going to have the funds, and they were going to have to delay their payments to us.
Got it. So if
Mhm.
right. So if that's the case, and if that happens again, that's also where some of that money that we have now would help. We
Correct.
don't have to borrow that money. Is that right?
Yes, and
Is that-
that's
is that
why our
understood?
district was going to be okay.
Got it. Okay.
And because of bond funds, but we don't need to go into that depth.
Okay.
You can, since we've had a change of administration, but again, we're yeah, come on up. But I have to starting in the odd numbered year, we're going to have public comment when there's public comment. So that's okay. I'd rather have this. This is an important, big issue, as was the one when we talked about the master plan.
Okay, so I'm not a math teacher.
And who are you?
I'm Diane Green.
Hi, Diane.
Hi. Nice to see you. Congratulations. If you go back to slide 3, which shows the COLA, this is my question. So in 2023, we have 6.5% or 6.5%, and then it goes up, right? The next year, another 5%, and up another 4%. So we have an increasing budget, right? It's growing each year. But then if you go back to the slide that you're just on, it was, this is 6? 6.
See at the top.
Yeah, right there.
That combined. Okay.
You have a decreasing, so we're supposed to have 5% of our budget given to our reserves every year. If our budget's growing, then the reserve for economic uncertainty should also be growing because we're taking 5% of that budget each year.
So, are you asking about revenue specifically or the 5% reserve?
Well, is it, I mean,
But starting with the COLA and how
so
that's
every year our budget's getting bigger, right?
Right.
So we take, and it says that we're going to get more money each year, right? We're planning on that.
Good question. Sharon, can you go back to the last slide? One more slide back. No, sorry, one slide ahead. One slide ahead. So the 5%, Diane, is based off expenditures. So this year we have 61,670. So it's 5% of that. And
Okay.
then the next year is 59. So it actually goes down, which is why the 5% reserve for economic uncertainties goes down.
That comes from, okay.
So said another way, the COLA is one aspect of increasing amounts of money from the state. As you see from our projection this year, which is what our interim is telling us, like, oh my goodness, why are we losing $6 million between 2023 from revenue and 23-24, right? It drops from at the very top line, 6.64 million to 58 million. There's that, whatever that number is, 6 or 5% COLA. That's going up. What's not happening is these gigantic infusions of millions of dollars of one-time money.
Okay.
Right? So COLA goes up, but COLA isn't on everything. COLA goes up on one aspect of our revenue, but our revenue between this year and next year is anticipated to drop 10%. You see that?
And also the ADA is also
Another
going down as
component
well.
of that is because we have projected declining enrollment,
Right.
even though we're getting more,
But not next year.
we have fewer students, so our budget is going down because we get it per student.
But
Does that
didn't we
make
get
sense?
50 more? See, I'm past my time, sorry.
That's
So, but we got 50 more students this year and we're projected to increase again next year. And then it shows the CPI is decreasing.
So go to the
Go- go
page
to
that
the-
has the assumptions. So we're actually projected to decrease, if you see from.
Oh, yeah, that's just
Yeah,
the
that's
entire-
why,
sorry.
that's why.
So these half a dozen different things all happen simultaneously. Some are going up, some are going down with this very strange thing that I've never been on the board when we had a $64 million set of revenue, which is great. But the mid 50s-ish to high, what it goes, go to 2 more slides where we were at one back. That 58-ish is kind of where we evolved to, right? Okay. So, and we have money in the bank, which is a good thing. I remember to that point when you guys were coming on, when you just had come on board and we were looking at deferments from the state when they weren't going to have the money. We were looking at one point from an $18 million cut. And Pete Stefanisco said, don't take counsel with your fears. It may not be that bad, but we were having those conversations of a 20 or 30% budget cut.
It does not feel like it was that long ago.
It was just the other day, 2 or 3 budgets ago. Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion for approval of, where are we at? Oh, the first interim financial report under 6.3, and then we're going to press on to 6.4.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Rich, in a second.
Second?
Paul C. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that'll pass on a 5-0-1. Okay, quickly 6.4, and then we will do the add-on 6.6, and we'll talk a little bit about future items for next year. So approval of resolution 23-05 regarding the accounting of development fees for fiscal year 21-22. Welcome back. More revenue.
Yes, sir. That's right. So unfortunately, my laptop is, oh, there it goes. Okay, counting fees. It's not going. All right, computer stuck. So developer fees. So these are, every year I'm required to bring to you a resolution that shows our developer fees. So that lays out the fees that are out there. So you have commercial, which is roughly 3.40 cents. $3.40 per square foot. Then you have your residential, and then you have your, I forgot the last one. But so it breaks mini storage. That's right.
Actually,
Thank you.
also, I think you got it's backwards. You have, it's 348 for residential and 56.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. But yes, so you have your developer fees, and then I have to then come and bring to you the how much we get throughout the year. So last year we started the year with roughly $80,000, and then we ended the year with roughly Rich, do you have it in front of you? Is it 1.2? 1.274. Perfect. So yeah, last year there was, what's great about that is we talked about a little bit in the facility master plan is all the developments going along in the area. So one way that, we project all these, right? We get with the town, we have a meeting, we sit down, we go through it, we project all these developments, but then when they actually come in and pay their developer fees is when we know, okay, that development's going up because they've now paid their fees to go. So one thing that we do is when we get these checks, we go through that list that we have of potential developments and we start marking them off, right? And then we put that in the back of our heads and goes into enrollment projections that, as we just talked about, affect the budget a whole lot. So with that being said, are there any questions from the board?
What capacity do we have to adjust or raise the amount of what the per square foot fee is?
Good question.
And where has that come from, and how long has that been the amounts that it is?
Very good question. So 2019 is how long those amounts have been like that. It is board policy, but the Office of Public School Construction sets certain rates that you cannot go over, and so does your county. It all kind of commingles. So one of the things that is actually on my to-do list come 2023 is to go through those rates, and actually my secretary, who just retired, Bonnie, unfortunately, just updated them all. So that way I can go through and update the board policy for you guys and get it going for 2023.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments from the board? Sir, okay. Any public comments on item 6.4, the annual approval of the fees? Glad to see that we've close to $1.3 million in that. And one other thing, Austin, could you just briefly address, and it's in the memo, but to say it, do we have limitations that focus how we expend these fees amongst one of our numerous special funds that are, for example, shown in the first interim?
Yeah, very good question. So these are actually not even included in the general fund. These are an outside fund, which means that they are very restrictive. So developer fees can only be used, and there's actually a lot of different interpretations of the language, but they can only be used in the case of a growing, they can only be used for the increased enrollment that you're going to get off of the development, right? So if we have new developments going in, those developer fees are supposed to help with facilities, mainly is what they are supposed to be used for, but facilities to house these new students from the development. So yes, they are in Fund 25, and yeah, that answers that.
When we were doing a facility update, do these funds, they also get to count towards state bond matching? Is that right? Do you remember?
Correct.
I thought
They
were.
can. They count as
Are
the
they
district
consultants?
match. Correct.
Yeah, so that's good too.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you need a motion, Bill?
If there's no other questions, I'd take a motion. Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve this resolution.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you very much. It is a resolution. Jen, if you could do a roll call vote, please.
President Adams?
Yes.
Vice President Lopez?
Yes.
Trustee
It's a nice ring to it.
Ahmad? Sorry,
Yes.
I can't see you behind here. Trustee Ahmad? Trustee Kagano? Trustee Carnation?
Yes.
Student Board Member Jackson Caligari?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Austin, for those two good news money measures. Item 6.6, we added long ago on the asphalt add-on to the contract batch.
Hey, Bill, before you go, I just need to know who the contractor is so that way I can maybe
Oh,
recuse myself.
yes. So who's the contractor
it's-
doing the work?
The contractor is Valley Paving. They're out of Redwood Valley.
Yeah, no, I'm okay.
Okay. The board does not indicate there are any conflicts. So a quick report. You mentioned generally it was about 50. What facility was the paving at? I don't think we need the whole rundown, but
It's at Matty Washburn in the TK Play area,
okay.
and it's 58,700.
And has the work already been done in the improvements?
No, it
Okay.
has not. It's waiting for approval from the board.
Okay. Any other questions for Austin then for the $58,000 add-on?
This bond money? Is this bond money?
No, this is actually coming out of routine restricted maintenance.
Okay.
Okay. One of our restricted funds.
One of our restricted funds, that's right.
Okay. Any other comments from this side on this asphalt item at Matty Washburn? Okay. Entertain a motion to approve this, the asphalt contract add-on in item 6.6.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie.
I'll second it.
Okay. Thank you, Rich. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Okay. 501. Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. With that, we have one more item on future board items. One of the things I'd like to do, Jeremy, is take a minute or two. We get that every month. It has that recurring cycle of events of things that happen per month. And I'd like to talk to you when we have our offline planning to maybe highlight and spend, some of those things come through in there on consent. And perhaps we spend a minute or two with the board taking some time to explain what some of those things are, right? Sometimes we do, sometimes they're not buried, but they're on consent and we do them on autopilot. One of the items that I wanted to do, and Paul, for your benefit, we have a parking lot of future board items where one of the ways that items get on frequently, it's out of this routine. You have in front of you the 4, 5, 6 things that happen every month allocated on how we have to take action, but either things that we hear from constituencies or an ongoing project. So Why don't you think about that, and maybe you can go last if there's something that you'd like to talk about, maybe something that came up during the campaign. But leaning into 2023, do any trustees have anything that they'd like to get to freshen our parking lot for the upcoming year?
Well, something that I talked about before was recognition. And I think we really need to look at how we do that more systematically, both for staff and students. And Jackson, you talked earlier about, making sure that students are being recognized where they are or where other people are able to witness the recognition. And I think that really matters. So, it is nice to be recognized here. It's always nice to be recognized, but I'd like to think about recognition. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be a discussion item. Maybe it does. But it's something that has been on my mind of just something that we can do that I think is generally really needed and important.
To Stephanie's point, when we had the discussion earlier, when our music teacher was kind of recognized and brought up, it was nice. And we have 500 employees. I don't think it would be that hard for us to start recognizing somebody, at a board meeting, just a quick little something. I know that out of 500 employees, we have somebody who's doing exceptional once a month. And we couldn't get through everybody who's doing something exceptional. And so to that point, I'd like to kind of almost, as part of the Adams tenure, to have something where we are recognizing an employee who's doing something exceptional. We know that everyone's doing something exceptional, but recognizing that and just making that part of our culture up here. I think we do it a little bit, but I think if we did something a little more formal that Stephanie's brought up, I think would be a wonderful legacy for Bill's tenure.
I want to piggyback on that because as a teacher, not that far removed from the classroom, I think it is much needed, and I would support any kind of recognition for the great work that our teachers do. I think you could even do something like the Teacher of the Month, or I don't know, because teachers are going above and beyond their 6 or 7.5 hours or whatever. I think the contract's only 7 in this district, but it's 7.5 where I used to work. But anyway, no, they go way above and beyond, and I think some kind of recognition would be good, but on a regular basis, not just. Well, actually, I've been in many years where you get nothing for the whole year. You do your work and go home, and hopefully you did a good job, and that was that. So I would definitely support any kind of recognition, support that idea. And
just to be clear, and teachers, yes, awesome, but all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
not just teachers. No, classified do an amazing job. No, we would also need to definitely.
You're going to learn this as being when you get on the board after about maybe 2 months, that Jen actually runs everything. So
okay, so I'll
yeah.
make that
So it's not just always the teachers, but it's everybody that adds to this great stew that we have.
No, absolutely interesting.
Okay.
I just have one item. This is something that you brought to mind, Bill, which is about like building relationships. And I had also brought up in the past about having a land acknowledgement, to acknowledge the fact that we're on unceded Indigenous land. So I think it's something that we could explore coming up in the new year.
Thank you. Did you have another one?
Oh.
Okay. Jackson C. You have anything?
On the topic of recognizing people, I know that Rich talked about it last meeting as well and it turns into recognizing employees a lot, and we absolutely should do that. But I think, I don't remember exactly what this says. I think it says student board member, student board trustee, or something like that. So I want to make sure that we're not losing students in that, because that is I see teachers doing great things all the time, and they're probably more apt to see recognition from this board. But students, I know so many kids that are doing amazing things all the time. And I want to make sure that we're recognizing that. And I would hope that we find a way to do it, whether it's talking to schools and being like, hey, is there some way that we can introduce a program? But if people are recognized where they are, other people will see that and improve their behavior to maybe, hopefully, try and model that. And I think we can create examples of good behavior if we're recognizing that overachievement where it can be seen and appreciated. So I would want to make sure that we're doing students, and when we're doing students, especially be doing it where they are.
Okay, I have a couple things. I would very much like and you two are here, and so you can pass it to Laura, because she mentioned Steve Mitchell. I'm sorry, Esme isn't here from CSEA. Would like to certainly weave in with our labor leadership what pitfalls or pros and cons there would be in recognizing, because when you do that, there's haves and have-nots and people's feelings can get hurt. But I think it's great. We seem to have gotten away from the celebrating success where students and a student-focused celebration was there, and we have come to where a principal or a site admin or the activities of that place are done. I think we need to do a little of both. One of the things when you talk about recognizing people where they are, I think you said that before when you were talking about our exchange student from Germany and his success, is perhaps weave that in with some of our board liaisons at the school sites to have that sort of institutionalized, to get the, not that it means anything, we would go there, but get the imprimatur of district level recognition. One thing, because Heather's here, and I happen to have a son who sits up here sometimes on the planning commission, there are hours of unused time on our channel 27 public access channel. And I would like us very much to find out how we can feed we have both middle schools at Cali and Windsor Middle School, and our digital arts core in the back can produce content that we could put on there. If I have one more glaring bad saxophone solo about water saving for 45 minutes. But I'd like us to use that, right? We get it for this, but yes, look at that. I'm getting the thing from the guy to say, bring it out, but we could feed the content, right? So, I mean, maybe we can have him monitor it till he gets paid, but it seems to me from a communication standpoint, we're underutilizing that as a tool, which also can become, paid content. I happen to hear about the sub problem at Santa Rosa schools on KQED on the radio driving up here. And I saw about absenteeism and things. And so I think that there's some ways that we can push that out. Three other things that I'd like to have us work on and get those reports. We need to get the Prop 28 plan. We in the first quarter need to have the Visual and Performing Arts Strategic Action Plan. We'll figure out when we're going to do that. I think January is too soon, but we need to do that, and we can weave that in with Prop 28. I would very much like to get, and I don't know where you are on the pillars of organizational excellence, which woven into that is your idea of the portrait of a graduate, but also have that on, again, sometime mid-spring, so that if we need to weave that in for budget allocations or some sort of policy priority, we can do that, because I think those are two important initiatives that you have. And then this facilities master plan. I mean, we didn't really raise it. I didn't think of it until she was gone. But I think the Kaiser Park master plan needs to be right part and parcel with our facilities master plan. I mean, anything that abuts next to our schools. And that's one that we're in there again. So to get that facilities master plan and how we either accelerate or pace ourselves on that. So when we get to the implementation, so that VAPA report, the organizational excellence and the portrait of the graduate, that sort of marketing through how we do, I don't even know how we do that from the public access channel, and our communications are some things I'd like us to touch on. While you have us here, do you have something, or any of the other cabinet members that are here have some things that you'd like the board to hear for us to think about maybe hearing about? We sometimes have a sit and get, and I know the board president and vice president talk with the superintendent when we generate. That's how we kind of generate and off of that recurring list. Do you have anything? And if you don't now, please, I think this is not a 6-person one-way conversation about this, that if there's things we need to do, and we've talked about possibly adjusting how our agenda is formatted, I am open to that. I'd like to have it be better, not just to change it, but sometimes it's a little kludgy, frankly, and you inherited it. It's the same as it's been since I've been doing this for 8 years, and maybe we look at that and freshen it up too. So,
Bill,
Sir.
just for clarification, I thought we had discussed some few meetings earlier that we were gonna, I want to say February, maybe March, we were gonna have roundtable's what comes in my mind right now, but
Workshop?
a workshop, yeah, about specifically our VAPA music. We know we have these funds of money. We don't know exactly how much, but I thought we wanted to have the opportunity, I know that I did, to possibly rethink our whole thing now that we have this extra funds, to see if how we can reimagine possibly how we're going to do things. Because I remember the discussion earlier was, we got this FAPA money, okay, we're going to have it for a little bit and then it goes away. Now what are we going to do? Well, now we have this little blessing coming in, and I'd really like to, so we had talked about doing that, and I'd like to do that sooner than later. Austin, when is that money supposed to start coming in?
23, 24, so next school year.
Okay, so we have a little bit of time.
And Elizabeth Robertson and I are working on it, and she's pretty much rewritten the plan, so
Well,
it's
Well, it'd be
there.
helpful if you talk to us about that.
Well, it's not done yet, so.
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I know, but she might be rewriting a plan that's not consistent with what the board maybe has a different vision or a bigger vision, so to speak. So
Correct.
before a lot of extra work is put into something that might be going down a pathway that might be different, or whatever, I wouldn't, any input's going to be great, but anyhow.
So my point in
Thanks.
raising some of these things, and again, for Paul's benefit, they could be at a meeting like this, almost any of those ones that we've talked a little bit about, even sort of a recognition program and staff and communication, some of these others could also be one of those second meeting dates. They could be a workshop that's focused on them. So I wasn't trying to say it'll be at, one of these where we get tired and we don't cover it. I think most of these things, we can talk about whether they need to be standalone.
Yeah, I thought it was more of a standalone to where we were
I
just.
wasn't trying to ascribe one way or the other. I mean,
Right.
we have about 6 or 7 or 8 additional times when we meet. We usually do a strategic planning meeting in the summer. We'll have a couple of meetings about financial stuff and the LCAP in June. So, but I'll talk to Jeremy about that. I just wanted to get the opportunity out here before we break for the holidays.
Cool.
Yes, Malinelli is pushing her green button.
I was just going to say that I feel like that there's some of us up here that have expertise in the arts. So I think that it would be good if it was more of a collaboration, versus just, from the mind of one person.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to say that she wrote it and that's it. We're doing the part that was asked of us previously, and then we will bring it before you and definitely collaborate. But she's, been doing a lot of research and talking with Austin and I, and trying to re-envision certain things that we could do. But by no means does that mean that it's a one-way street.
Okay, good. Okay, so one other point coming up, we will know at 4:00 whether Jackson's going to be wearing cardinal tomorrow, so good luck with that early admission information for the college of your choice. I won't put any other spoilers. People can stop him at the end of the meeting and ask him about that exciting news. I want to say thank you to the 3 candidates and all 4 candidates who ran. I thought it was above board, decent, honorable, and well-informed for the public. And so, as you know, other elections in other parts of this location or otherwise in the county are always that way. And so I think I'm really looking forward to where we're going. It's very helpful to have money in the bank. It's very helpful to have initiatives. We are, on so many different places. It just is almost the norm, it seems, for us. We are on the crest of the wave of doing innovative things. One of the things I'll just tell Jeremy, and I've told him this personally when we go for our walks from time to time, I am always conscious of, are we putting too much on the plate? Are you all getting too much? Is there too much uncertainty going back down to the staffs and teachers? Say, what are they doing from up there? And I'd like us to always be pushing that envelope, but be cognizant of, is there an extra too many straws in the camel's back? So to be aware of that. And one of the things, I think it starts with the 7th member of our governance team, when the superintendent comes in and we close the door and he says, look, we got to take 2 things off if we're going to add 3 things more. And I want you to know you have at least this trustee's commitment that we're going to continue to innovate and continue to take advantage of these opportunities, but be aware that there is a capacity for that we're certainly going to be on top of and be aware of, and we need to be made aware of it, sort of starting with this group, but also these loyalists who want to stay here till 9:45 at night to help us to know that. Before we go and take a holiday break, tomorrow's the last day. Thank you for a very good semester and good luck giving tests tomorrow.
I have AP Gov, but this was my steady for that, so I should be
Oh,
fine.
you got all right. You tell Leslie that your econ grade should at least be good. Terry Oden, you are sitting in the back patiently. You have been a stalwart coming every meeting. Would you like to have the last word or any comment before I entertain a motion to adjourn? Go. Okay. All right. You've driven the teachers union off. So here we go.
I started doing this when Valley PTA bugged me long enough to become an officer on the board rather than just a volunteer. And the positive for me has been that because I'm went to high school boosters, but I can take what I hear here back to the school sites. Honestly, often the able to go to the principals and say, that's what they talked about at board last night. And I like the idea that you sort of consolidated that this year, that the person who's Callan PTA rep is also Callan site. I think that there's two ways to look at that. Does that mean that there's only one person on the board who's paying attention to Callan? Or maybe before there were two, or even three with site. But I think there's an advantage to one person having a big picture. So I think you're headed again in the right direction. I gotta say, when you found Jeremy, you found a real winner because his innovations are just making this district stand out. Every time somebody asks, why is your granddaughter going to school in Windsor? Well, Callie was the first reason, and then my daughter saying, long before that, I never had kids that going to Windsor. Didn't live here. Place stands out, and you're continuing to make it stand out. So good luck this year. Have a happy holiday.
Those are very nice words for us to close the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for your service and commitment. It's an honor to serve with you. I wish you all the best of holidays. Recharge your batteries. I will certainly entertain a motion. Mr. Former President.
I will make a motion that we adjourn for this wonderful time of year to be enjoyed by all.
For that, I'll put your hand on. Okay, off we go. Thank you, everybody. Stay well.
Yeah. Oh.
And P?
Carrie.